crowding this storming world somehow. I keep the sword not to kill, I keep the sword to rend those clouds above the ground. Wake up, it's time to gather now. The only warmth remains in hands clasped so tight. The only fire exists in brave hearts. Seasons that refuse to change over the years will find their way back on track. We made a choice, go fight against your fate. Pain will come with the blade. Pain will wake up the despondent crowd in this storming world somehow. I sheathe the sword not to kill, I sheathe the sword to rend those clouds above the ground. Wake up, it's time to gather now. We have nowhere to go, where they are headed for. See them back on the far, just blaze through the storm. We know it's right over there, something is there. Whatever is arriving, we'll be prepared. We made a choice, go fight against your fate. Pain will come with the blade. Pain will wake up the despondent crowd in this storming world somehow. I sheathe the sword not to kill, I sheathe the sword to rend those clouds above the ground. Wake up to hear the cheering sound. The way to celebrate, I'll be waiting till we make it. The day to celebrate, I'll be waiting till we make it. Oh, we will see. Come with me, take the journey. We will see. Come with me, take the journey.
Get rid of the press from the rusty time, those years. Don't stay in a daze looking for a sign. Start and try. Run across fields of ice, but hidden inside light. Be well aware of roads we've gone by. Put yesterday's aside, meet the future head on. Now trailblazers keep riddles in mind. One, stop staying within the lines. Two, we always align. Three, even if we don't get the upper hand, we'll fight for our
潮汐将我的伤痕刻蚀成龙鳞，突袭中酝酿着风云，血脉更续，在我皮肉下交织成命运，扎根于烈火烧灼的龙心，磨砺今世做我的骨骼，放任飓风从口中挣脱，用传说重塑我，用疼痛重铸我。
撕裂心海之方，万军雷霆的巨响，浩瀚星魂激荡，惊涛骇浪胸口，鲜血滚烫，淬炼出爪牙锋芒。我必身披星光，在领域中给击伤。撕裂心海之方，万军雷霆的巨响，浩瀚星魂激荡，惊涛骇浪胸口，鲜血滚烫，淬炼出爪牙锋芒。我必身披星光，在领域中远至上。Wrapped in biting wind, hearts will never bleed, frozen and banished out of greed. In their restless dreams, they try so hard to breathe. Pulses flutter and sting within this bleakness. Pain will come with the blade. Pain will wake up to despond and crown in this dormant world somehow. Unsheath the sword not to kill. Unsheath the sword to rend those clouds above the ground. Wake up, it's time to gather now. The only warmth remains in hands clasped so tight. The only fire exists in brave hearts. Seasons that refuse to change over the years will find their way back on track. We made a choice, go fight against your fate. Pain will come with the blade. Pain will wake up the despondent crowd in this dormant world somehow. Unsheath the sword not to kill. Unsheath the sword to rend those clouds above the ground. Wake up.
to celebrate. I'll be waiting till we make it the day to celebrate. I'll be waiting till we make it. Oh, we will see. Come with me, take the journey. We will see. Come with me, take the journey.
papers from the rusty time dossiers. Don't stay in a daze looking for a sign. Slide and try. Run across fields of ice, but hidden in starlight. Be well aware of roads we've gone by. Put yesterday's aside, meet the future head on. Now trailblazers keep credos in mind. One, stop staying within the lines. Two, we always align. Three, even if we don't get the upper hand, we'll fight for right. Four, never care a rip for hindsight. Five, let us light the night. Six, even when there are wills within, we'll go ahead.
风柔日薄，春犹早。夹山乍着，心情好。睡起觉微寒，梅花鬓上残。故乡何处是？忘了，除非醉。哦，茶点时间到了。 不加速，也不推迟死亡，生命总会枯萎。琴因周而复始，万物本质如一。有的时候。 等待亦是变化。超出预想的成果。生命里的每一片花瓣，无论何时盛放。 都会有被风吹落的那一天，别害怕，至少你们仍有研究的价值。
biu是我运营的产品，我想通过它和更多不懂分寸的人一起探索世界的边界。正是这些不懂分寸的人，也许他们不被理解，任性、固执，甚至疯狂。
就是我。
但如果没人去打破边界，谁又能玩透世界呢？
大家好，
我是星际争霸2世界冠军李培南。作为职业选手，每天大部分时间都是在电脑前度过。每次训练结束都会有不同程度的腰酸背痛，所以我们对电竞椅的要求都非常严格，能保护腰部并且坐感舒适，成为我们挑电竞椅的重要指标。我们一直在用的傲风电竞椅就完美做到这一点。升级的锥背小弹腰有足够的支撑力，并且上下前后都能调节，坐着很舒服，非常适合大家玩游戏的时候使用。不论用什么姿势，正坐、靠着、躺着。腰托都可以支撑我的腰部，非常舒服。再来坐感，这款还配置了空调坐垫，夏天凉爽，冬天温暖，真的是跟空调一样精准控温。训练久了总觉得闷热，坐垫有3档风度调节，游戏再也不闷屁股了。现在天气转凉了，坐垫同样配置了3档加热功能，让身体一直保持温暖，游戏手感一直火热。训练之余刷刷手机休息一下，玩玩手游。6D 机械手臂可以自调节高度，手臂不会感觉累。同时扶手面很大，即使有大动作也不会落空。相信我，跟我一起选择傲风机械大师电竞椅，你也可以逆袭成为冠军。
打开微信，搜索公众号“星际老男孩 SC Boy”， 这里有每日的直播预告、重要的赛事报道、精彩的视频剪辑、有趣的主播八卦、定期的抽奖福利以及爆笑的节奏和评论。关注 SC Boy 官方公众号，365天每天更新，让你与20万猛男一起更便捷的享受我和黄哥给大家带来的快乐。不要告诉别人哟。
Coming to you live here from the Coliseum Cafe and Grill Room over here in Selangor, Malaysia. We are here today with day number 1 of the group stage of Masters Coliseum number 7, numero 7. And I am, of course, your host, Yaku of the Zaku, and with me today is La Goofy Goober que come los Ubers, Light _ VIP. How we doing, Light?
We were talking about nuts earlier, yes. But welcome back, everyone. It's great to be here. It's great to be back here once again with Masters Coliseum 7. Of course, we were here with Masters Coliseum 6 last season. It was an amazing event. It was beautiful, and now we are here to crown a new champion in the aftermath of WTL of the World Team League season. We have crowned the best team in the world, but now it's about the best player.
Indeed. Get out of here with all your team stuff. All right, because now it's time for the one.
There
like
you go.
Lee.
Exactly. It's time for the one. And even more so here because up first we have Dark versus Oliveira. A team kill. You know, these two players, they've been fighting on the same team for months in the WTL season, and now they have to face off against each other.
Yeah, that's kind of the DKZ Dragon Kaisi gaming curse, isn't it? I mean, for the longest time, we did have Dark versus Hero over and over and over and over and over again, and now it looks like Oliveira is kind of jumping into that a little bit. We have that sort of rivalry of the best Zerg player, the best Terran player, and of course the best Protoss player in that team going at each other, and constantly trying to see who is the overall best.
Oh, exactly. They're all amazing players. You know, that's why DKZ did so well in the WTL season. They did well for themselves, but they did not make it to the finals. They were knocked out a little bit earlier on by the amazing run that Team Liquid had, the amazing run that Clem had, of course. And we'll be featuring Clem later on tomorrow. Some people were asking about it, and for those that are curious, every single match is going to be casted. Today we have 4 matches. Tomorrow we have another 4 best of 3s. So every game will be casted here on the CranKy Ducklings.
Indeed, we shall. Every single game. And I think it is pretty important you know that we have 4 today, we have 4 tomorrow. They are all best of 3s. And it's a little bit of a departure from what we used to have in Masters Coliseum, because now, for the very first time, the group stage is using a Swiss format.
Exactly. In seasons past, it was round robin. Here, it's a Swiss format instead. Swiss format can be a little bit more complicated to wrap your head around, and we'll go, from step to step, from round to round. For the time being, we do have all these players facing off, and
I still have my calculator.
Oh god.
Still has some battery.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we'll get there. We'll get there. Meanwhile, you can see our players getting ready to duke it out. Vetoes have concluded. We have our bans. We have our picks as well. And everything is, everything is looking pretty standard so far. Nothing too crazy. We have some of the larger maps earlier on. Golden Ore is going to be a little bit spicy if we do reach that far, if we do get into game number 3.
Yeah, but noticing the continuing pattern going on. Rat House, Radizet Station always getting banned.
Yeah, Equilibrium's another big one that's been getting banned as well. Interesting that Dark has gotten rid of some of the smaller maps.
Yeah, definitely an interesting choice here from Dark, as he is known to be a very aggressive Zerg player. He loves just getting right up onto your face from as early as possible, applying pressure on his opponents. But it looks like he is going back to, in a way, going back to what I think really set him apart from a lot of the other Zerg players back in the day, which is more going into the late game.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other big thing that Dark is more than willing to do as well, if he can lure you into a later game, then he can, of course, catch you with something crazy like an all-in. But here we go in the bottom right-hand corner. We have Dark for DragonKy Gaming.
Not in the dungeon this time. And over here in the top left-hand corner, we have the Red Terror player from the land of China, representing DragonKy Gaming. We have Oliveira.
Beautiful.
It's even faster.
They're not giving us any time here, but again, big shout out to the sponsors of Master Coliseum. Shout out to Doyu, Honkai Star Tidal, Order Full, and a new sponsor for this tournament, Bill Bill. I don't know if you saw the ad. It was really confusing because they had like a gun.
Yeah,
it's like it makes sense because of the name of the thing, but I think it's like it's like an app or something. It's like a messaging app.
It appears to be. That's what that's what I gleaned from the ad. But Wikipedia is telling me that Biu Biu is the name of a PUBG mobile player from Malaysia.
A player. Oh wait.
and also a League of Legends player from Oh no, these are different people.
Yeah. There you go. So we share the IDs with clearly these pro gamers are sponsoring Master Coliseum. That's clearly what's happening.
Exactly.
We are sinking our teeth into this. Again, predictions in the chat are about to close, so place your bets on how you think this series will unfold and who you think will come out on top in this best of 3.
Yeah, going to be a very tight matchup to start things off with, I do predict. This is kind of how it goes. It was seeded, but it wasn't directly seeded the same way that, say, something like ESL Masters is seeded based on the ESL points and whatnot. From what I can tell, SC Boy kind of has their own system of seeding that they're doing back there, which I am still trying to figure out.
Yeah, it's seeding based on performances in Kung Fu Cup and World Team League. So based on kind of wins and like big performances there, players were seeded, players were invited. There were also some qualifiers that we did cast a couple of weeks ago. It was the final week of December, which were the qualifiers for this event. And yeah, we were able to get one player from each region. One player from Asia, one player from Korea, one player from Europe, and one player from the Americas as well. So really cool to see kind of a wide, diverse group of players getting involved here. Again, the best of the best are going to be duking it out. And so far here in the ZVT, everything's been looking normal. It was a Hatchgas full standard opener out of Dark. Likewise, Oliveira going for what looks to be a relatively standard opener himself.
Yeah, just sort of testing the waters to kick things off with. Neither player taking too many chances, taking too many risks here. Oliveira very promptly backs away with his Reaper, trying to keep it alive.
Yeah, Reaper does back off. Meanwhile, in the main base, we do see that there is no third CC, by the way. That's what I was curious about. It is going to be a straight-up 1-1-1 opener from Oliveira, so something far more aggressive here from our Chinese Terran.
Yeah, not something we see too often nowadays. Nowadays, it is usually all about the 3CC before Starport when it comes to doing a 1-1-1 opener like this. Something a lot more economic. So, like you said, Oliveira's just looking to kick this off with a little bit of heat.
Exactly, and we'll see if he can spice it up here. Now, he is not all in, but Oliveira's third CC is delayed. It is going to be a delayed third CC here from our Terran player, so he needs to get damage done with this. Now, in favor of the late third, it's going to be faster Banshees in general, Banshee production, as well as an abundance of Hellions to work with. So we'll see if we can break the defenses of Dark early on.
Yeah, pretty standard starport with Hellion build coming up from Oliveira here. Of course, with the Banshee, it is much more versatile, so Oliveira wasn't quite able to get into the main base, I don't think, but you know, he did scout the third. He knows that there's no roach push coming his way or anything, but regardless, it's nice to have a Banshee just in case.
Oh yeah, exactly. And our goal here is to get economic damage done. We do see Hellions going to be poking on the front lines. Queens are in position here, both in between the natural and the third base. We do see the Banshee actually bypassing the third and going to be trying to slip in towards the main base or even towards that third mineral line.
Yeah, it looks like Dark did catch some eyes on this with his Overlord. Thankfully, he was already building a couple spore crawlers by his more vulnerable bases, so he has a little bit of detection. They're not quite done yet, so no Overseers.
Overseers. 2 workers go down. The Banshee does escape with its life. So far, a nice start for Oliveira. But again, he's hoping for more damage. Meanwhile, we shouldn't be too surprised, but we have some tech here from Dark. He is indeed going for a Roach War.
Yeah, too few people surprised, I suppose. You know, Dark, he's a bit of a Roach boy. Kind of how what he made a name for himself as... Kind of how he made a name for himself back in around 2017, 2018. My memory of 2016 is a little fuzzy, but I believe he was still using roaches back then as well.
Yeah, again, he's been a roach boy for a long time. It's what he really does embrace here. Now, this doesn't mean he's going to commit to just purely roaches. Later on down the line, he can diversify and get into Hydra Lurker or Ling Bane as well. But for now, roaches are just a really secure and safe way to open up in this matchup, especially considering how aggressively Oliveira opened up with all these Hellions. So he should be relatively safe and secure, but again, it's on Oliveira to try to pull apart those queens.
It absolutely is. Queens are a great defense, but they can be a little bit squishy if they do get targeted off of creep. Dark finally making use of these lings, which he knows won't be too useful in the defense, so sends about for a little bit of a run by. Oliveira reciprocates. A couple of drones go down, a little bit of lost mining time. Yeah, just trading blows.
Pretty good here. 3 workers go down. That's 5 in total for Oliveira. He also doesn't really lose too much to the Ling run by, so really clean defense out of Oliveira. And we are committing, by the way. Here we go. Dark droned up to 70. That's true. That's a Nidus Worm on the way. We are going to be hitting a timing with 1/1 or +1 roaches here with queens to support.
Yeah, this is going to be absolutely devastating. But before that all happens, Oliveira himself is setting up for a little bit of a push. Coming out with a little bit of a scouting force, keeps most of his Marines alive, but most importantly, 1/1 is about to finish up for him. Combat shield is about to be done. Don't quite have eyes on the tank count just yet, but he is building a bunch of them. He catches eyes on the Nidus. This Nidus Worm should not pop up.
Yeah, it's going to be close, and it barely does finish. But only a couple of roaches do come out, so it should be dealt with. At the same time, though, Roach is going to be pushing towards a third base instead. Hellbats are getting picked off. So far, the Hellbats are doing a great job at buying time for the rest of the army.
Yeah, really important. Tank is a little bit exposed, but it does get a couple of volleys on top of this Roach army, which allows the Sim Marines to really pretty much clean the rest of them off. Banshee survived from earlier, and that really is going to be the major deterrent here for Dark.
Yeah, and with that, Oliveira, he holds and is in a pretty good position here. He lost the Hellbats, sure, he lost a handful of SCVs, but if you look at the worker count, he's even, which means he's ahead because we have mules on top of that. Dark was so committed to his attack that he had caught workers at 70, and suddenly Oliveira's in a bit of a better position than Dark. The onus is on him to try to make something more happen.
Yeah, he really needs to make use of these roaches while he still can. They do not scale well at all into the late game, which he is trying to get to right now. He is working on that infestation pit, but Dark, of course, is still only on 4 bases at the moment. That is nowhere near enough to sustain a late game Zerg army.
Exactly, and now Oliveira is catching up with upgrades. Both players start up 2-2. Immediately, Dark, he throws down Infestation Pit, and he throws down a Hydrogen. He's starting up Hive. So he's trying to transition into Hydra Lurker Viper, which is a good transition, but until then, he's still stuck with Roach Ravager.
Which, as we can see right here, doesn't do anything against these flying units. Marines come down, Marines go up. Can't explain that.
Can't
Can't really do
explain.
anything about him.
Yeah, the Marines, they trade well, they pick up, they get the hell out of there. We have Liberators in between the bases as well, trying to find some damage here, and again, there's still no good answer to them. Lurker Den is now in production, so again, Darky just needs a little bit more time to refine his army, as Oliveira is going for a bit of a dive. He does catch a couple more units here.
Yeah, not too bad. Whatever he can really do to shave off the army count will be beneficial for him when he eventually goes in with his follow-up push.
It definitely is. We get another Nidus into the main base. Again, trying to distract his opponent. We have Dark with a tri-pronged attack. We have Nidus into the main, which does finish with only a single Roach does pop out. At the same time, we have the Roaches pushing towards the third, but we are in position. The Roaches are deflected. We also have Lings ready for a run-by, but so far, again, Oliveira's done a great job here at holding. And the supplies can be deceiving. Yes, Dark, he is up in army supply, but that is inflated supply because of all these Roaches.
Yeah, very, very inflated supply. Dark needs to get rid of them, but he also needs to make sure that when he does get rid of them, he's not going to be rolled over by the Marines and tanks of Oliveira.
Yeah, it's a bit of a process trying to trade out some of your inefficient supply and trying to refine yourself. And there we go. We have 5 Lurkers on the way. We have 2 Vipers, Lurker range as well. We're working towards all those upgrades. A nice Ling counterattack, actually. The SCVs, they did Maynard a little bit too soon. We do finally get some economic damage.
And a little bit of attention taken away from the main base, it seems, as that Nidus Worm is going up.
Yeah, it is on the way. We have a couple of reinforcements. The Marauders, they do stim on in, and they take down the Nidus. Once again, this Nidus hasn't been able to find any damage whatsoever. Really, really nice attention to detail from Oliveira. Also, maybe a little bit lucky. Whenever this Nidus, he just happens to have some reinforcements in position, and he's able to clean it up, able to deal with it.
Yeah, really good responses from Oliveira. Not overreacting or anything. He knows that just 3 Marauders with Stim, that's all you need to take out Nidus Worm at that point. So he's not really bringing anything too far away from his front lines. Oliveira, meanwhile, is starting to push in, and that is a terrifying tank line.
Oh yeah, that's a lot of tanks. We do have some Lurkers at event. We have Vipers as well. That's very important. Ghosts are not ready yet. They're in production, but here we go. We can go for some yoinks.
Yeah, really good way of dealing with these tanks. Oliveira thankfully will be able to save one of them, and he still has plenty more in the back. Dark now trying whatever he can do to really chase this back. He is trading away his Roaches. The Lurkers are still standing strong, and despite these scans, there just isn't enough army to deal with the Lurkers.
Yeah, exactly. Those Lurkers did so much DPS in the backline. Despite the arc, despite the concave of Oliveira, he did not have enough, and Dark will hold, and he's instantly remaxing with Hydras and Lurkers.
Just like so. And all of a sudden, things are gonna start to really swing in Dark's favor.
Yeah, like that
still
was
a little bit light. Yeah, I was gonna say still a little bit light when it comes to the bases. Still a little. Could do a little bit better when it comes to production, but as we can see, he's already completely remaxed. Oliveira still needs a lot of time to remake all of those tanks.
Yeah, like that push out from Oliveira, that was his moment. That was his moment to really potentially even end the game, but now it's being forced back again. The tank count was almost reset. Good EMPs here on top of the Vipers, and even good snipes as well. But there's just too much on the ground. GG is gonna get called, and Dark takes game number 1.
GG. Nicely done here from Dark. It feels like both of our players were trading back and forth for the longest part in this game, but when it all came down to that major push by Oliveira, Dark just crushed it when it came to the defense, and yeah, just took a lead and ran with it.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty close, though, in the sense that, again, Dark, he needed desperately those Lurkers to survive there, and if he was any later with those Lurkers, then that massive tank army would have broken through and would have potentially ended the game, but with Dark having a really good fight there, with Dark yoinking and resetting that tank count, he did have a lot of momentum there, and Oliveira needed time.
Yeah, those Lurkers and those Vipers, the absolute top MVPs. Like, maybe without the Vipers, Dark might still have been able to defend, but those Lurkers, man, they really put in a lot of work. If Dark fought that army of Oliveira without him, I don't see a way for him to have held against that.
Yeah, exactly. So what I will also say is that Oliveira, he did well for himself up until that point, right? He had a solid early to mid game. Like, he was deflecting blows, he was getting his economy up and running, getting up to 4 bases. Like, that was all quite solid from our Terran.
Yeah, like you mentioned, he had a very keen attention to detail. Every single time Dark was trying to harass, every single time Dark was trying to send a Nidus up, Oliveira, with just the bare minimum, knew how to defend efficiently. But here we are in game number 2 now. In the bottom left hand corner, we have our blue Zerg player, we have Dark for DragonKy Gaming. DKG, Korea.
And in the top right hand corner, we have the red Terran player representing DragonKy Gaming. It is Oliveira.
The map is Alcyone, by the way.
It is. They don't give us time, Poppy. They don't give us time. They only give us Oliveira.
Oh, that's a good trade.
Also, Funada Aisan in the chat. I don't know if you saw. Does Overlords provide inflated supply?
I saw it. I chose to ignore it.
But
now we have to address it, so
we do. Shaking my head. Oh my god. But yeah, solid game from Dark.
in the chat. That's not a thing. Do not try.
Solid game out of Dark as well, right? For him to acknowledge and transition and get the hell out of those roaches as well. You could definitely argue that in that period where Dark was transitioning, where he was backing off, where Oliveira, instead of working towards one big push, maybe there should have been a little bit of pressure there to try to get some economic damage done. He was trying to with his Liberators, if you remember, but I don't recall his Libs ever really getting too much or getting out of hand or really killing too many workers across the map.
Yeah, I mean, they were unupgraded. Liberators, to be fair. So I think Dark, because he did catch them pretty early on, was able to reposition Spore Crawlers pretty early on and get them into very key positions where Liberators couldn't really do much here.
Dark is crazy, by the way.
Yep.
Do you see what I see?
I see. Yeah, I do. In fact, see what you see.
Dark is going for a gasless opener. That was hatch pool hatch, by the way. So a very greedy opener out of Dark. This is something that Dark does on Radisson Station, for example. He does it on Golden Aura. He does it on very defendable maps. To do it here on Alcyone, this is greedy. This is insanely greedy out of Dark.
Very much so. Alcyone is not known for being naturally defensible. For instance, it doesn't have that ramp going into the natural base that something like Oceanborn has. So this is a huge risk coming out here from Dark.
Yeah, it really is. So the big thing here, if you're curious as to what Dark is up to, because he hasn't taken his gases, he of course doesn't have any link speed. This means that he is hyper-fixated on defending with queens. It's just purely queens and a handful of slow links. It means that if Oliveira had gone for a 1-1-1 opener, if he had gone for a Hellion dive, then Dark would have a very hard time keeping up. But again, Dark keeps cutting corners. Because his gases are so late, this is going to lead into roach play.
Yeah, it kind of has to at this point. Which, you know, we were talking about the defenses of Alcyone. It does mean that Dark is a lot more vulnerable in the early game going gasless like this. But on the flip side, so will Oliveira. Now, obviously, with Terran, it's a little bit difficult. It's a little bit different because, of course, he does, and he absolutely should, be walling off that natural later on down the line. But even still, just not having that high ground can make a huge difference. It makes it that much more easy. It makes it that much easier for Ravagers to get their biles down, for instance.
Exactly, and Dark so far is getting away with it. You can see he's taking 3 gases at a time. Like, he's taking as many gases as possible. As you mentioned, he should be skipping link speed because, I mean, we don't really have any gas to spare at the moment, and we're rushing into roaches. Roach Warren is on the way. We see Oliveira did open up 3 CC before Starport, so as opposed to the previous game, a much more economic opener here from Oliveira. And this could be a big reason as to why Dark went for this. Specifically, Alcyone is it is not the most defendable map, but it's a very large, wide map. There's the goal bases on the right-hand side. There's the other half of the map that you can expand to. This typically does lead to longer games, and Dark, he took a bit of a gamble, and so far he's getting away with it.
Yeah, so far. We'll see how the execution actually goes, as Oliveira starts to prepare himself to be a little bit more aggressive here with his Hellions. He will be able to catch wind of the Roaches, and once he sees them, he should be able to put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah, and at this point it may be too late, right? The Roaches have come out just in time, and any potential Hellion dive into a mineral line isn't really too viable anymore. So we see Oliveira backing up, and now we're transitioning into a bit of a longer game. We should soon be taking our third bases, but again, Dark, he's going to get away with joining up and, again, cutting a lot of corners.
Yeah, he has just swiped map control from underneath Oliveira's nose with this maneuver. Oliveira, with these Hellions, this is typically how the Terran player gets map control in the early game, but with the Roaches about,
yeah,
pretty much defeated.
Exactly. It's going to be so difficult to really punish the creep, because if we ever dip onto creep to clear up tumors, well, you have Roaches to deal with, and Hellions will be getting picked off. So suddenly Dark is that much more formidable, and we can see that he's even taking his 4th base as the gold as well.
Yeah, because what's going to stop him? These Hellions? Yeah, they can try.
They can
take out a tumor.
Yeah, they can try. They can fail here. We do have Banshees moving out, and again, Oliveira did scout. He did just see the gold base being taken, so he's aware of it. He knows that he needs to make sure that he's able to punish the economy. The pressure is on Oliveira to make sure that Dark doesn't get away with any more greed at this point, that he doesn't get away with a free gold.
Yeah, definitely a lot easier said than done, though, especially as Dark is just teching up like mad. Here's what happens when you give a Zerg player free reign. 6-minute infestation pit.
Very fast infestation pit. Not just that, we have +1 melee on the way, which means we are going to be transitioning out of Roaches. They were just merely to defend early on, and now we're getting into Ling Bane. This could even lead into something like Ling Bane Ultras with the fast Hive, or we could go into faster spellcasters like Vipers, like Infestors, like Dark. He has a lot of options.
You can sample from basically any tech structure on the Zerg menu.
Many none. Look, I just still think you're like cat. It's okay, that's all I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Hey, you know, Dark, he's got a lot of nuts.
He does. They're big, they're huge. He has no fear, and so far, we'll see if Oliveira can break through. He's being active now with a couple of drops to clear up some of this creep at the 7-minute mark here, but again, we have plenty of room to deal with them.
Yeah, I mean, whatever he can really do, as long as he doesn't lose too much, I was gonna say, as that Banshee goes down completely unnecessarily.
Not just that, but this Banshee opener didn't do anything, right? We weren't able to kill any workers, weren't able to deny any bases. The Banshee wasn't able to really pay for itself, and it did end up falling, and now Dark is going to be running away with this. The Hive is about to finish up. The question becomes, what do we do with that Hive? Do we rush into something like Ultras? There we go, our first question is answered. There it is, we have Vipers and the Ultra Den.
Here we go. I was almost wondering if he was going to just rush out anabolic boosts, cracklings, because he is, working on his Ling Bane right now, but I guess for Dark, he is so rich when it comes to minerals and when it comes to map control that he can really do whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the Ultras, they take a long time. They take a long time to invest because of those upgrades, but here we go. We have Oliveira pushing right towards that gold base. Ling Bane going to be engaging, and we're getting on top of the tanks.
Yeah, unfortunately for Oliveira, a lot of his bio did have to pull back. Didn't quite have enough Hellbats to really defend against these onslaught of Lings. Ravagers are really landing the biles as well on top of these tanks. And this push has been completely deflected. This gold base is still alive, still up and running.
It is still up and running, and there we go. Ultra production has commenced. We have Kindness plating on the way. Now remember, these Ultras are unupgraded. They only have +1 attack and +1 defense, so they're not going to be the most terrifying of Ultras, so it's a little bit greedy of Dark to invest already into them, but we'll see if he can hold on, because Oliveira is not done. He's coming out with a second wave.
Yeah, that production of Oliveira has just kept on going on. His economy as well has pretty much been untouched by Dark as well, so Oliveira's not starving too much when it comes to his production.
Yeah,
it's just not Yeah, it's just not as big as Dark's production right now.
Well, yeah, just Dark, he cut so many corners, he got away with it. Dark, he's already remaxed, by the way. Oliveira having a really hard time keeping up when it comes to these main frontal pushes. That's what he's been relying on, not on drop play. Another tank is going to be going down in the center of the map, and Dark, he is not slowing down.
Yeah, he just keeps on going. Which I was... yeah, thankfully he stops in the middle of that, because that was a line of tanks up a ramp. I was getting ready to see the explosions.
Yeah, we do back off for now, but kind of spending about to finish. I think we're waiting for Vipers. The Vipers are out, but I think we're just gathering up energy, waiting for blinding clouds or abductions so we can try to break these entrenched positions. Now, this third base and the fourth base of Oliveira are pretty well fortified. The third especially. The fourth is a bit more exposed, so we'll see where Dark decides to push in. We'll see if he does try to break that third base, despite the tank line.
That we shall. Always gotta appreciate Dark's classic skin on the Ultras.
Yeah, they're very thin and they're very classic, as you were mentioning. There we go. Blinding Cloud's gonna be thrown down. Tanks are gonna be covered here, and we're just pushing on through. We don't even care.
Yeah, the SimCity of Oliveira is good, but not good enough to overwhelm the Vipers, the Blinding Clouds, the Ultras, the insane amount of Banelings, these corrosive vials that are starting to land. Dark is starting to lose a little bit of steam here, but there isn't really an anchor unit remaining here for Oliveira either. It's just these Marines and Medevacs.
Yeah, the tanker was completely reset. The boys being pulled through the Ultras, and a lot of SCVs going to be going down. 16 workers do fall. And as you mentioned, the tank count being reset means that Dark, he can remax, rebuild, hit again before the tank count replenishes.
Yeah, already that third base is going to go down.
It is going to be burning as we try to save it. We do see Lynx once again engaging with the Bio Army. While they take down another one of those tanks, there's one tank left in the natural base. We're still just rallying Ultras across the map, and so we've lost control of that third. Oliveira knocked down to 3 base economy.
Yeah, the SimCity is pretty good here for Oliveira. He was able to trade very efficiently against the Ling Bane, but when it's all said and done, he is on a 3 base economy, whereas Dark is on a 6 base economy, one of them being a gold, and he has all the tech he needs. He's just running through these liberation zones. He doesn't care that he doesn't have anti-air. GG is called, and Dark will be taking that series 2-0. GG.
GG, well played. A very solid result here. A solid result. A solid result from Dark here. Honestly, that last game was like a Zerg player's wet dream.
Clinical, yeah.
It was anything you could ever want out of a ZVT, just because of how greedy Dark was. Like, Dark, he cut so many corners in the early game going gasless. Not just that, we mentioned it. He opened up gasless, rushed into roaches, then took the gold. And the gold wasn't punished. The gold wasn't really deterred whatsoever. Like, Dark got away with so much greed in that game, and that's why Dark looks so overwhelming. That's why it looks so imposing against Oliveira, because of all those corners being cut, because of the economy, because everything was boosted. It just looked that much easier for Dark towards the end there.
Yeah, Dark is known for being a little bit of a scrapper. He is known of making a million lings out of only 1 base or something like that, but this game just goes to show that he is as comfortable on the other side of that fence with an insane economy.
Exactly. I think that's a good thing to point out as well, right? Dark, he has a reputation of being aggressive, but also, if you let him, he can be hyper greedy as well, and he's more than willing to just indulge in that kind of side of himself. So, yeah, just a solid, I say a solid game. Just, yeah, Dark, you got away with a lot, did overwhelm his opponent. GG, he does take a solid 2-0 over Oliveira. He will advance on. Oliveira's still in this. This is still the group stage, so plenty more games ahead of us, but a solid start for Dark.
Yeah, it's a Swiss format, you know? Winning early is a huge boost, but losing early also doesn't mean that you're going to be too far behind.
Exactly, as from here we're going to be going on a short break. You can see the countdown timer towards the top right, only a couple of minutes here. We're going to be dipping on...
Somewhere.
There you go. After the break, we have the rest of our matches here tonight. And after the break, it's going to be Solar versus Classic.
A good old ZVP to follow us up with. We'll see you then. And we are back. Hope you enjoyed that little bit of a TVZ appetizer, because now we're getting into a little bit of a PVZ to continue things off with, this time with neither player from CranKy Gaming. We are, of course, talking about Solar from Onsite Gaming and Classic from Twisted Minds.
And here we go. In the bottom right-hand corner, we have for Team Onsite, it is Solar.
Meanwhile, over here in the top left-hand corner of Site Delta, we have the Red Protoss player for Twisted Minds. It's Classic.
Here we go, just diving right on into our next match. Again, a big shout out to the sponsors of Masters Coliseum. Shout out to Doyu, Honkai Star, Taido, Autofull, and Pyo Pyo. So yeah, big shout out to our sponsors. Without them, we would not have this event.
Which possibly is a streaming platform, or possibly is a retailer of games? Question mark.
I can confirm that by the end of these 2 weeks of broadcast, we'll figure out that it's something.
Yeah.
We'll do our best.
Apparently, there's also a VPN called Pew Pew.
Could be the VPN, maybe.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
Because I'm on a website right now. Well, potentially it is, because I'm on a website that has the Pew Pew logo on it, and it's asking me to install for Windows 7, 8, 10, or 11.
Oh, okay. I don't think that's...
It's like Steam, but for China? Question mark?
Oh, maybe. There you go.
It's yeah.
Go on.
Apparently, it also, well, I mean, it's also showing, like BattleNet, Epic Games, and Riot Games here.
Okay. Well, regardless, again, a big shout out to the sponsors for making this event happen.
It's been a long
supporting WTL, as we are, of course, getting into our second matchup of the night.
Indeed. It's been a long time since I last failed Chinese, folks. So, I'm Mandarin, so.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Translation might be a little slow.
Regardless, again, we're just easing ourselves into this, and already a spicy opener. Again, Classic is very aggressive in this matchup, very similar to Hero in that respect, where he just wants to be in your face constantly as much as he can, and with that, already spicing it up with that Twilight count.
Yeah, I feel like we've gotten so used to seeing a lot of Stargate openings in PvZ, especially from Classic, as he puts his little twist into things, like getting an earlier Fleet Beacon and stuff, but this is a very different type of opening that we're seeing from him.
Yeah, and this should be something along the lines of Glaive Adepts or a Dark Shrine opener. We'll see. We don't really have eyes on the gases yet, so it's a little bit harder to determine. But regardless, an aggressive opener here. The Robo has been thrown down. Overlord is going to be zoned away by the Stalker. The onus is on Solar to try to piece this all together, as again, we still have not started those upgrades for the time being. We do have the resources for it. Gateways are on the way though, so this should be glaives, but yeah, we're just waiting to deal with all those lings.
Yeah.
We have a lot of gas. There we go.
We had so much gas for a second I was thinking, wait, Dark Shrine? Potentially, but no.
Yeah, so this is going to be delayed glaives. I don't think it was intentional, but the glaives upgrade was actually quite late there. Classic was banking a lot of gas. It's possible that maybe he wanted to deal with the Ling and deal with the Overlord first before starting his upgrade. That may be possible there just to hide his build. But regardless, it is going to be 4-gate glaive adept. So a very aggressive opener. This is not all in. We should be transitioning out of this into an expansion, but an aggressive opener nonetheless.
It's very much on Solar right now to be able to get on top of all of these shades. Thankfully for Solar, he is already getting a Roach Warren, so that will help out a ton later down the line. But now he does need to make sure his Lings are in position to catch these shades. He scouts the Warp Prism, and that is confirmation.
There we go. We do already have that Roach Warren on the way. Spores are being thrown down back at home for Solar to be able to have detection, to be able to deal with things like Oracles or Dark Templar. Adepts have been revealed. And again, Solar, he's going to be cutting workers a little bit earlier here just to make sure he has enough to deal with this.
Yeah, it's a little unfortunate here for Classic that the jig is already up, but like you were saying, it still can be very, very potent with the right positioning and with the right control.
Exactly. As we mentioned again, this is not all in. The third base is on the way. Has been spotted by Solar. Solar looking for a cancel. At the same time, Roaches are popping out just in time. Do we have enough Roaches, or can we survive against the Adepts?
We shall see as these Adepts get right on top of Queens. Queens is starting to run out of energy, and the Lings and the Roaches aren't quite in position to deal with all of these Adepts. Shade has been sent out, and Shade will be completed. Solar very proactive though with his drone movement. Doesn't lose too many of them as he just evacuates them back and forth.
Yeah, did lose a couple though as we shade back into the natural. 7 workers go down. Pretty good damage so far here from Classic, bearing in mind that he is expanding behind this, and the Adepts are not done, by the way. We still have a couple more being active. We have 6 Adepts on the field, denying mining here at the third base and going into the main.
Yeah, this is absolutely essential damage that Classic is getting done right now. I like this a lot from Classic as well. He is doing a bit of a pseudo multi-prong where he is just, distracting the Queens with a handful of Adepts and then coming into his main force into a mineral line.
Yeah, he is, and we get even more damage, by the way. It's going to be 10 more workers going down. We do shade into the third base. Solar's losing a little bit too much. 12 workers do fall, and he is falling behind the worker count compared to Classic. Oof.
Yeah, when it was something like 5 workers, that was acceptable. 7 workers, 8 workers, that's something you can bounce back from, but 15, and this is starting to get excessive. It's not game-ending yet, but it's going to hinder Solar's ability to do... it's going to hinder Solar's ability to do anything else from this point forward.
This is insane. 19 drones go down. Solar, he had a little... It did feel like a little bit overconfident defense there because he had enough to defend, but for the past while now, he hasn't been really pulling away workers. He's been losing quite a lot.
Are we ready to call it game ending now? Right, as a third player.
I mean, from here we could just go all in. If Dark was playing, he would just start making drones, and he would just make Lings Roach, and he'd just go all in across the map. But Solar isn't Dark, and Solar is redroning. We've got 10 more workers on the way.
Yeah. Which, is one way of dealing with this. Thankfully for Solar, he was on top of his injects. He does have a lot of larva available to him, but this just delays everything else. It's a huge domino effect from this point forward. The only tech that Solar has right now is a Lair and a Roach Warren.
Yeah.
When really at this point, as a player would really want to start getting more layer-specific tech, throwing down a Hydra Den or a Spire.
And this is just a very clean follow-up here from Classic. He's been building up. He's already on 3-base saturation. He's on 61 workers. We're pushing out across the map, and this entire time, Solar hasn't been making units. He's been making workers. He's making drones, which means his army is that much smaller.
That much smaller and that much weaker. That's 4 full Immortals, a whole lot of Adepts, and a lot of force field energy in these sentries.
Yeah, the force fields are insane. We just barely have an army to speak of. Too much economic damage early on. Solar, he just split out far too much, and a Classic is just rolling over this defense.
Easy does it. We were at the point, actually, where there just weren't enough Ravagers to deal with all of those force fields. That is how behind Solar was when it comes... That is how far behind Solar was economically.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he just lost far too much there. Just unacceptable losses against a Twilight Council opener like that. As you mentioned, initially it was okay. Like, initially, Solar, he was pulling away workers. He lost 5. He lost 7 drones in total. Like, that's we can handle 7 worker kills. And then Classic went for another warp in, and he dove into the main, and he was just picking away at the economy, getting 2, 3 drones at a time, and it did add up there, and Solar was just really struggling.
Yeah. It was a descending scale of just the hope leaving his body as you can see more and more workers go down. It's like, this is fine. This is not fine.
Really, it was this was fine. The entire Solar, he was that dog meme, you know, in the House of Fire, the house just burning down around him. It was not fine, as you mentioned. Again, just too much economic damage there, and again, just a really crisp follow-up from Classic, just getting his third base fully saturated, building up his immortal count, and going in for the kill.
Yeah, absolutely clinical. And speaking of clinics, here we are now on Elkione. At the top right, we have a Blue Zone player from Korea representing On-Site Gaming, OSG. It's Solar.
And in the bottom left, we have representing Twisted Minds. It is a Classic.
Is that the Twisted Minds jersey?
No.
Okay. Because I was wondering why they were just like random people.
I mean, he does have a jersey for Twisted Minds, but he may just reserve it just for offline play. For those big events, but for now, just a really strong start here from Classic, and it's kind of what we expected. We don't expect him to go Twilight Council every game, but he's a very aggressive player, very similar to Hero in that respect. Not really one to embrace late game too much. He's just always in your face, even here, making sure that the goal base wasn't taken by Solar.
Just like so. Yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how Classic kind of evolved over the years. I do feel like 2019 was probably the year where he really solidified himself as a player who, I mean, much like his team, will just pull out a 1,001 tricks to try to avoid a late game scenario. To be fair, that was also a time period where Protoss didn't exactly do well in the late game, so yeah, I guess you could argue that Classic specifically adapted his play for that, but yeah, it is interesting because I do remember that beforehand, Classic was kind of renowned for being a very strong macro player who could occasionally throw out a cheese build to try to keep his opponents on his toes.
I agree. He definitely did have that kind of notoriety around him. I do think that kind of changed more recently, like basically since his return to maybe it was happening even before he went to the military, but whenever he came back from the military, like again, just hyper aggression out of him, just very aggressive play.
Yeah, I would probably say that 2019 is the year where he started showing off more of his very aggressive plays. Of course, his legendary series against Maru and Rogue in GSL and WCS respectively. But by the time he came back to from the military, any doubts that anyone had were settled. If there was ever any doubt that Classic was a trickster, they were completely crushed when he came back from the military.
And here it is once again, Twilight Council opener. Just like the previous game, with this should be leading into Glaive Adepts. If he doesn't pull out a gas, this could be a Dark Shrine opener. Classic has options, but regardless, this is a very aggressive opener out of Classic.
Extremely aggressive. Much, well, to be determined if it's much earlier than the last game, but if he's on top of things, he should be getting his upgrades much sooner. He is getting the Robo facility once again.
Yeah, exactly. We did point it out, but again, Glaives was a little bit late last game in game 1, where we had plenty of resources for it, but we did delay it. I was curious if it was intentional or not, because once again, Twilight Council is done, gateways are being thrown down, it's going to be 4 gates in total, and we do intentionally delay Glaives again. Okay, so it does look like it is part of this build from Classic, as he will be getting into it.
Slowly but surely, Glaives once again. And we'll see if Solar is able to put up a better defense this time. He had the tools last game that he needed to, like you were pointing out, but somewhere along the line just kind of wasn't able to keep up with the multi-pronged shades coming in from Classic.
Yeah, like Solar, he had the good response, but it was the execution that was lacking for Solar. Once again, really good timing for the Roach Warren. It was around 3 minute 45 from Solar, so it should finish in time. He's cutting workers early. We should be joining up to around 40, 41, around that at most, and then we just need to focus on Ling, Roach, and of course, control on Micro against the Adepts.
The path is there, the path is clear, but whether the path is taken is to be seen.
I mean, it's not an easy path to take, you know, let me tell you. Let's see, here we go. Adepts are going to be moving out across the map. The prison behind this. Remember, we can warp in 4 Adepts at a time, and we are heading towards that third base of Solar. We do see Ling's going to be checking the third base of Classic, going to be delaying it a little bit here. It does confirm that it's on the way, but for the time being, Solar has to focus on what's in his face here and now. Those Adepts.
Yeah, already taking this very, very seriously, getting as many Lings and as many Roaches as possible, bunching them all up together, following the shades.
Yeah, it does chase those shades. We have the Prism slipping in towards the main to reinforce. Queens are in position here at the third base, but we can, of course, bypass those Queens. Roaches are in production. We do go for a warp it into the main.
Yeah, and there are units to deal with that, but as long as his army is split up here for Classic, this is going to benefit him. He will not have to face the full brunt of the Zerg defenses
exactly.
at a time.
And we got 5 worker kills. A lot of Lings going to be going down. Some of these Adepts are running out of steam here against these Roaches, but really good target firing out of Classic. Gets 7 drones in total.
Yeah, 7 drones, a bunch of Lings, a couple of Queens earlier on as well, from what I can remember. That's little bits of Micro coming from Classic once again. 9 drones is pretty impactful, or it can be pretty impactful. Already we can see Classic is ahead like 10 workers.
Yeah, like this is really good damage done here from Classic. It isn't enough to end the game like we saw in game number 1, but a good start nonetheless. With this, he should be able to get his third base up and running without too much issue, and he reinforces Classic. He's doubling down, going for another big warping of Adepts.
Yeah, might as well. It worked out brilliantly for him last game, and so far he has also been able to get a lot of economic damage done, so why not? Why not? He has a chance, and he's taking it.
Yeah, the Prism takes a lot of damage in the main, though. The Queens were in position. At the same time, Adepts, they try to shade into a mineral line, but this time Solar has a much stronger response. This time he's ready for it. This time Solar doesn't lose a single worker.
Very nicely done here from Solar. Not a single drone goes down, and 8 more Adepts do get taken out here for Classic.
Yeah, and suddenly that wasn't worth it, right? Classic, he invested into another warping of Adepts, he committed, and he lost everything, and suddenly he has that much less to protect these Immortals. So, a bit of a rough follow-up from Classic. He has to be careful not to be too wasteful with his army. Behind this, I do appreciate this, though. He's taking up. That is a second Robo in production, a Bay on the way, and Blink.
Okay, flashbacks to the Blink Disruptor era, all of a sudden.
Yeah, I mean, we're building up towards that. We can head towards Disruptors or even towards Colossi. Colossi will be a more solid form of splash damage. We'll see what Classic does decide to go for. But what's important here is that he's working on that next step, right? He's taking up further. He's not going for one big push. He's not going for an all-in. He's only harassing.
Yeah, unlike the previous game where he could really afford to go for that big push because Solar wasn't making any army units. This time, Classic knows if he tries to do the same thing, he will be crushed, essentially. He will not be able to overwhelm all of those Ravagers and all of those Lings the way he was in game number 1, so it's just going to be harassing while he works on round number 2.
Yeah, that's why I want to commend Classic. Like, he realized that he didn't do enough damage, so he knows that he can't get into, or he has to go into a longer game. Meanwhile, the Immortal does get caught out. Oh!
It's looking very exposed. One volley will go off, but one volley is not enough. Classic somehow saves that Immortal.
He does save it, and you called it. We are throwing caution to the wind. We're skipping the Colossus. We're going straight into Disruptors. It's a very risky kind of play style here from Classic, but it's on brand. It's Classic.
Yeah. He likes his risks, he likes his rewards, you know? Colossus, they may be reliable, but they don't go boom quite like Disruptors do.
Yeah, and now we have to talk a little bit about the map in conjunction with the tech that's on the way, because we spoke about this during the Dark series against Oliveira, how this map is much more prone to longer games where you can get your fourth and your fifth base up and running. You can go into a longer game. In saying that, Classic throws down a Stargate. This feels like a transition into Skytoss. If Classic can survive this push, then he would be working towards eventually a Skytoss transition.
Yeah, this is definitely looking like Classic is thinking ahead. He is thinking where this game will eventually go, but like you said, he needs to make sure he survives to that point. Otherwise, he is going to get overwhelmed by Lings, Banes, and Ravagers.
Yeah, and here we go. The all-in has arrived as Solar. He cuts workers early on at 68. He's going to crush this third base. He does catch an Immortal already. The Prism is not here to juggle, by the way. We cannot micro. We're getting caught out.
Yeah, thankfully for Classic, Blink is done, but Immortals and Disruptors do not have Blink. Classic now really starting to fall down. His army count, his army supply is really starting to dwindle. Forced to pull the boys, and he's going to lose just about every single boy that he pulls.
Yeah, Lings, they come in from behind for a surround as well. Boys are getting knocked down, as you were saying. Solar, after surviving the Glaive Adepts, after having a stronger defense against the Glaive Adepts, here he comes in with a massive counterattack, and he will be breaking this third.
Yeah, we have one Disruptor, one Purification Nova, which will not quite land, and it's not going to be anywhere near enough. GG is called. Solar tags up our series sideways 1-1.
GG, well played here. Very nicely done out of Solar. Again, after minimizing his losses, after having a much more secure early game, that did kind of snowball into not just him getting out of control, but specifically Solar did cut workers at 3-base saturation. He cut workers at 68, and he made nothing but Ling, Bane, Roach, Ravager. He went for the kill, and we did see that Classic was maybe thinking a little bit too far ahead.
Absolutely. It's one of those classic, unintentional, one of those moments where you're thinking way too far ahead that you don't notice. You're looking too far ahead that you don't notice the fists coming at your face.
Yeah, like Classic, he was working on a 4th base, he was working on the Stargate. I think going double Robo Disruptor was okay, but again, he was just investing in things that weren't going to be helping him in that follow-up fight, you know, here and now in the moment, just investing too far into the future when Solar was cutting workers and was going for one big push.
Yeah. Those moments where it's like, yeah, inevitably the game will go this direction. Well, if the game lasts that long. And Solar did not want it to last that long, as we could see. Classic, unfortunately, after he was deflected with those Adepts and whatnot. Here we are now, moving on to Oceanborn. In the top left-hand side of the map, we have our Blue Zerg player, Rob Career, representing Onsite Gaming OSG. We have Solar.
And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have for Twisted Minds, the Korean Protoss. It is Classic.
What was I saying there? Oh, right. Classic after his second wave of Adepts got deflected, and his, Immortal Harass and his Warp Prism got down really, really low as well. Classic was never really able to dive in deep into Solar side of the map, right? He was sort of hanging on the edges. He was delaying a base here and there, but he didn't really notice just how committed Solar was. He wasn't able to keep track of Solar's lack of bases, his lack of mineral saturation.
Exactly. Again, Solar had a much stronger defense in that last game, and as a result, there was a lot that kind of came to fruition afterwards as well. So we have a back and forth. We have a back and forth here, getting all the way into the ace match. Solar going for a very safe opener. He went for a hatch pool gas, so late gas out of Solar means he has faster queens. It means he has faster links, so a very safe way to play, just in case there was a proxy in the early game. Speaking of, what kind of opener are we going to be seeing here from Classic? He's gone for that the Twilight Council Glaive Adepts build 2 games in a row so far. Do we do it again?
Well, obviously, it's got to be Proxy Tempest.
I mean, this probe is very suspect. It's looking like a Proxy Stargate, but we'll see if we invest into something different here. Like, a Proxy Stargate would make the most sense, though.
Yeah, we have occasionally seen some Proxy Robos with Immortals and with Warp Prisms as well, but they very obviously, for obvious reasons, are not too common nowadays, especially in this current map pool.
Yeah, the other thing that it technically could be is Proxy Twilight Council with the Proxy Dark Shrine. We have seen that from time to time as well, but there it is, the Stargate is on the way. Now, this can be a really risky thing to do. So for those that are curious, this is going to be Oracles for Oracle Harass, and the Oracle will get across the map faster. That is true. But if this Stargate gets found, if it gets depowered, Classic is going to have like a massive blow. He's going to be so far behind. The reason for this, as I'm sure you know as well, Yaku, like Oracles are so important to get into like the mid game, right? Like there's the reason why triple Oracle openers are so commonplace to get into a standard game. And if you are denied that Stargate production, then suddenly you don't have anything to protect yourself and to make it into a longer game.
Yeah, it's the single most important unit that you can get here in a PvZ when you are opening up with a Stargate. Just there's so much utility behind it.
100%. And the first Oracle is on the way. Once the Oracle reveals itself, Solar, he's going to realize that it's early. He's going to realize the angle of attack and realize that, of course, it was a proxy. So it's going to be on Solar to try to hunt down that Stargate and depower it before too many Oracles come out.
Yeah, but for now, he has no reason to suspect anything. Classic might even pull up a couple of his Oracles just to make sure that he goes in with 2 or 3. And he's able to start one-shotting these drones.
To be fair, I just realized something that is actually going to help Classic so much this game. Remember, it was a hatch pool gas opener, which means late gas out of Solar, which means late link speed. Link speed still isn't done. Without link speed, it is going to be a little bit hard to actually find that proxy and to shut it down. So it's relatively safe here considering. Like, things are kind of going in his favor, and we're actually banking up the Oracles as well. Oh my god.
It's all coming together.
Kind of is.
As Classic will now start moving out with his double Oracles. Again, this is enough to start one-shotting these drones. Solar coming in with his speedlings, but he doesn't have too many of them.
Oh!
Classic, too distracted for a little bit too long, a second too long. Will be losing one of his Oracles. He is going to try to make up for it with his Adepts. Almost loses the other Oracle. He does get 12 drones, which is nice, but at the cost of an Oracle and at the cost of potentially a Nexus.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. This is very chaotic here. There's a lot of damage being done. 12 drones go down, which is good, don't get me wrong, but the second Oracle is almost dead. And as you mentioned, that third base is very much so under fire here by these links. Do warp in a couple of reinforcements. Third Oracle comes in. Spore is still not done, by the way, and we're going to get a couple more drones.
Indeed we are. It is only one Oracle, though, so it will take a little bit longer to kill drones. Only 3 go down. So 15 drones, this is great. The Nexus is finally secured here for Classic as well. Oh, maybe I spoke too soon.
The Lings, they do go for a big counterattack, but we are in position. We have the SimCity on our side, and we try to get us around on these units, but again, good positioning here from Classic. He avoids us around, and killing 15 drones for 1 Oracle is worth it here for Classic. As long as he doesn't lose his other 2 prematurely.
Yeah. Once those go down, Solar will have nothing holding him back, essentially. He will be sending everything he's got across the map. Only 1 Queen by the third base, so with some careful maneuvering and with some careful micro, Classic is able to get 5 more drones for pretty much free.
Yeah, very nice damage being done. We have a stage trap in the main base, catching 1 drone as well, and this is impressive. This is 20 workers going down, and again, he only lost 1 Oracle. Classic, he saves his third base. He gets even more drones. He gets 2 caught in the stasis as well. The Oracle barely survives.
2?
2.
He got 2?
He got 2.
That was only supposed to be 1. Solar specifically sent out 1 drone to eat the stasis.
He did. I don't know what happened. On top of that, 3 more drones go down. I think that's 23 workers in total. The Oracles are still alive, by the way. They're still looking for more damage, and Solar, he's in a really rough position here. He is behind economically. Straight up is behind. Things are looking a little bit similar to the previous game that we saw in game number 1. Solar, he's opting to drone and take a 4th base. He's going for a long game. His 4th base is at the same time as the 4th of Classic.
Yeah, that's just how the asymmetry works here in PvZ. There are an even base count and practically the same worker count. That favors the Protoss player every single time.
It does, and Classic is getting away with +1 with a Blink. We have the Robo on the way for eventually Immortal production. We have the Prism to begin with, and yeah, Classic, he is in control so far. It's going to be on Solar to try to fight back, to try to get into a run by, to get some economic damage done, maybe deny the 4th base, or even swallow up the army on creep. But again, the pressure is on Solar.
really is. And this could be a way to do it here for Solar. He is taking into an infestation pit. If he can get some earlier,
Investors.
Yes. Let's go with investors.
Where's your brain going?
Vipers. I was thinking of Vipers.
Okay.
I don't know why my brain died on Vipers, but yeah, if he can get some Vipers out early on, even though he would have to get a Hive, then he's going to have a lot of utility on his side.
He will, but here comes the army. Again, a very strong timing with +1 and with Blink. We dumped up the Queens. 2 Queens go down. Good force fields here on the ramp, cutting off those roaches.
Yeah, there aren't any Ravagers for now. Just about every single roach does get caught out, and Classic is fighting half an army at a time. This is everything a Protoss player wants.
Yeah, this is just far too much damage here. The Queens are following the roaches as well. Solo, he just doesn't have the numbers, doesn't have enough on his side. Again, he just lost far too much here when it comes to the opener, and with this Solar, he's up against the wall. He's up against the ropes.
He's up against the Classic, the Chin, as Solar is just trying to do whatever he can to try to chase this back, but the writing is on the wall. Solar, he is just processing right now.
He is processing.
GG.
Yeah, GG gets... GG, well played. Classic will take the 2-1 here, will take down Solar in a pretty fast series, to be honest. It did feel like the games were kind of determined pretty early on when it came to the openers, when it came to the builds here of Classic.
Yeah, we did get a... I mean, I'm glad that we got an ace match, but like you said, it felt like Classic was the player who was setting the pace of the game every single game in a row in this matchup. So yeah, it didn't quite work out for him in game number 2, and Solar was able to really punish him for that. But as we could see in game number 1 and game number 3, when things are going his way, when he is able to defend counterattacks and whatnot, he will just have complete control.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this is how Classic typically approaches this matchup. He's just a very aggressive player in PvZ, and Solar just had a really hard time keeping up when it came to the Adept harass, when it came to the Oracle harass. That was what was impressing me, at least, in that third game, is just how much damage Classic was able to deal, just pulling Solar left and right. Really impressive stuff.
Yeah, very, very impressive stuff that we saw there. But I'm sure it's not going to be the last of our impressions? No, the last of the things that impress us. That's what I was trying to get at, as we do have 2 more series to go, and oh man, like, I mean, I'm sure you saw, I'm sure all of the viewers saw. Next up, we have 2 Titans in another team kill.
We do. After the break, we're going to be coming back with Cell versus Raynor. Potentially a ZVZ, potentially a ZVP. Raynor is not afraid to play Protoss against Cell, as he's even showed us in Premier events, so I don't know what we're about to stumble into.
Yeah. It's always a mystery. We'll see you then.
See you then.
丢丢是我运营的产品，我想通过它和更多不懂分寸的人一起探索世界的边界。正是这些不懂分寸的人，也许他们不被理解，任性、固执，甚至疯狂。
就是我。
但如果没人去打破边界，谁又能玩透世界呢？
大家好，我是星际争霸2世界冠军李培南。作为职业选手，每天大部分时间都是在电脑前度过。每次训练结束都会有不同程度的腰酸背痛，所以我们对电竞椅的要求都非常严格，能保护腰部并且坐感舒适，成为我们挑电竞椅的重要指标。我们一直在用的傲风电竞椅就完美做到这一点。升级的锥背小弹腰有足够的支撑力，并且上下前后都能调节，坐着很舒服，非常适合大家玩游戏的时候使用。不论用什么姿势，正坐、靠着、躺着。 腰托都可以支撑我的腰部，非常舒服。再来坐感，这款还配置了空调坐垫，夏天凉爽，冬天温暖，真的是跟空调一样精准控温。训练久了总觉得闷热，坐垫有3档风度调节，游戏再也不闷屁股了。现在天气转凉了，坐垫同样配置了3档加热功能，让身体一直保持温暖，游戏手感一直火热。训练之余刷刷手机休息一下，玩玩手游，6D 机械手臂可以自调节高度，手臂不会感觉累。 同时扶手面很大，即使有大动作也不会落空。相信我，跟我一起选择奥风机械大师电竞椅，你也可以逆袭成为冠军。
打开微信，搜索公众号“星际老男孩 SC Boy”，这里有每日的直播预告、重要的赛事报道、精彩的视频剪辑、有趣的主播八卦、定期的抽奖福利以及爆笑的节奏和评论。关注 SC Boy 官方公众号，365天每天更新，让你与20万猛男一起更便捷的享受我和黄哥给大家带来的快乐。不要告诉别人哟。
And we are back. Hope you enjoyed those ads. I certainly did. I learned not a whole lot, if I'm being honest. Still trying to figure out what BUPU is. From my understanding right now, they're a game news site? Question mark?
I like how you say something different every time. You're like, hey, my understanding, it's like a fitness app sort of thing. You know, it helps you get into that REM sleep cycle.
Yeah.
There you go.
You know, you can run with it.
There you go. As
there's
we go on.
I was gonna say there's just one segment here called Popular Game Acceleration Tutorial.
Ah.
I'm sure that's a direct translation from Google, but
I'm sure.
Not sure what it means.
As we are getting ready here for our next matchup, here we go. Some of the best in the foreign scene going to be facing off here. Cyril and Rainer in potentially a ZVZ. I say that just because I'm not too sure if Rainer is willing and opting to switch races into Protoss. He's done it before. Against Cyril, we'll see if he will do it again. I know he has been dabbling a little bit in the off-racing more recently, but we'll see.
Yeah, we heard it pretty recently as well. I believe it was Lambo who said it, that Rainer has been pretty vocal about not liking ZVZ right now. But regardless, here we are now in Hecate. In the bottom left-hand corner, we have a blue Zerg player from Finland representing Basilisk Gaming. We have Cyril.
And in the top right, we have his opponent also representing Basilisk Gaming, or Basilisk. It is Rainer. Here we go. And if you're in the chat, predictions are open. Predictions open. So you can place your bets. We have confirmation that it is going to be, for now at least, a ZVZ.
Indeed. It would have been so funny if Rainer was actually queuing in as random.
I mean, it's possible. It's possible. Don't know if he'd be willing to really risk it all like that, but already the openers are going to be diverging. So this is something that Rainer's been very fond of. There's been two players, Rainer and Shin, have been very fond of the 15-15 in ZVZs and ZVTs. So yeah, Rainer likewise going to be whipping it out here on Hecate.
Indeed. Starting a bit more aggressive, something that will allow you to take map control a little bit earlier on. But, of course, with the obvious downside that, it's not as economical as a standard Zerg opening.
Yeah, so speaking of, Cyril is going for a hatch gas pool, so a standard opener out of Cyril. Basically, with a 15-15, very similar to what we saw from Dark against Oliveira, your gases are much later. They're not as late as what Dark was doing against Oliveira, because it was just going gasless. But with a delayed gas from Rainer, he basically should be going into Roaches from here. This typically leads into 2-base Roach play, just because of how late your gases are. But we also have other options available. You can fake out 2-base Roach and rush into Link Speed and Link Flood, or you can even do something crazy like 2-base Muta.
Ooh, it's been a while since we've seen those, haven't it? It feels like that was one glorious moment in the years are starting to melt together, so I don't remember if it was 2022 or 2023, but there was a solid maybe 4 months where we saw Zerg players do Muta openings again and start developing Muta builds again, and then we just never saw it again.
Yeah, they have their
and it just kind of stopped.
It's not in season, they have their seasons of mutas, when they do kind of thrive and they do pop out. But for the time being, we do see Rainer again just making as many queens as possible. As we mentioned, he did get late gases. Ooh, but we can see here, he is still investing into Link Speed. That is a little bit suspect for Rainer. I did mention that this build usually leads into 2-base Roach, and if we get into Link Speed, it is with purpose.
Indeed it is. To make the links faster.
You're not wrong. Not wrong. We do see Reynor just going to be walling off there with that Eva Chamber. Should be soon throwing down a Roach Warren as well. The advantage that Serral has is a faster third, of course. He's going into a third base, and he is skipping the Baneling Nest. This is why you go into fast-link speed like this from Reynor. His goal, yep, there we go. It's going to be a Ling Bane all in, and his goal is to lure Serral out and make him believe that it is going to be 2-base Roach instead.
Yeah, especially if you can get these Lings in the middle of the map. Would absolutely be huge. We see Serral right now is trying to, he knows he has the economic advantage, so he is going to try to get his own Roach Horn out fast, and Roaches can do pretty well against Lings, so long as they don't get surrounded.
Exactly, and without Banelings, we do see things in favor of Reynor. We do force a cancel at the third base, so a nice pick off there from Serral, that is true. But again, the big differential factor here is that he skipped his Baneling Nest, or I say skipped it. Again, he believed it was safe to skip it, as he is amassing Roaches as we speak. Meanwhile, Reynor is going for everything across the map. He's sending it.
Sending it all, papi. There's the question, do you think the amount of Lings that Serral saw Reynor had might have been a bit of a tell?
I mean, now it is. He sees Ling speed, which is like crazy. So, Serral, he's cutting workers. Serral, he's cutting workers, now he's making nothing but Roaches. Fun fact, by the way, Reynor is droning behind this, so the turn is about to table. If Reynor doesn't trade well enough here, he will trigger a big counterattack out of Serral.
Yeah, he needs to be very, very careful. He does have Ling speed, but he doesn't have Baneling speed. Neither player has Lair yet at the moment. Serral needs to do everything he can to try to isolate these Banelings, maybe snipe them out, and once he does, he will be in a prime position to counterattack.
Yeah, because now there's a big window. Now that the aggression has been deflected, there's no Roach run for Reynor, so he's behind when it comes to Roach production. Serral suddenly in a better position, but as you mentioned, without the Lair, without Roach speed, it takes a while to get across the map. Serral, he's just droning. He survived, and I mean, he's aware that he's up a base, so he's happy and content to just drone from here.
Yeah, might as well. Not typically Serral's style to get too crazy when it comes to counterattacks and stuff like that. He does typically like to make sure he has a very solid economic base before he engages in any aggression in a normal game anyway.
Definitely. So this is a pretty tense game so far, but things going to be easing up a little bit. Good scout here from Serral. Does realize the delayed saturation at the natural. It looks like Reynor was cutting workers. Now we're going back into drones. Basically, this is a big game of chicken. You know, who decides to cut workers, who doesn't, who commits, and who doesn't as well. We see a spine crawler on the way. Reynor, he's revealing his army in the center of the map to the Overlords. He's revealing a push, but Reynor isn't actually committed here. He's droning back at home if you look at the production tab, so he's trying to fake out Serral.
Yeah, trying to force a bit of an overreaction, which seems to be working as Serral is throwing down Spinecrawler. I think he might have caught wind of this, though.
Yeah, he canceled.
As that Spinecrawler does get... They get cancelled. Serral's army is a little bit isolated. Some of these Roaches do get surrounded, but there are Lings backing him up. Reynor will be deflected for now, but once again, this is good for Reynor. As long as he is able to force Serral to stay on his side of the map while he himself drones up, he is getting his fourth base much quicker than Serral is right now. Then Reynor is fine with not, being able to push too deep into Serral. Yeah,
so basically Reynor, as you mentioned, got away with droning, but Serral is getting away with some tech. He was, done trying to play this game of chicken. He threw down a Spire. Very fast Spire here from Serral so far. Unscattered. It is hidden in the natural base. It's going to be on Reynor to try to catch wind of it. If he doesn't, these mutas can give Serral map control, and they can give him a lot of momentum.
Yeah, there's that little brief period where if you do scout the mutas early on and you are the player who has a lot more Roaches, you can just go straight into your opponent's base and try to take them out, and try to cripple them economically. But if you're the player with mutas, banks them up a little bit and is able to catch you by surprise, you have absolutely no anti-air to deal with that.
Exactly.
The few queens you have at each base isn't going to cut it at that point.
Yeah, we only have injecting queens basically here for Reynor, so he has to be very careful. Lings go for a big counterattack. We do pick up a couple of gas mining workers. 3 drones go down. Very nice pickups here from Serral, and there it is. 6 mutas are on the way. And as we just saw with the Observer, it has not been scouted. The Spire has not been seen by Reynor.
Which is reflected in his production right now. He has no Spore Crawlers, he has no Hydra Den, he's not getting any more Queens at this point. It's all just drones, roaches, upgrades. Hydra Den being thrown down now, but it's possibly too late.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably too late.
It was thrown down after a couple of Overlords are getting picked off, so good pickoffs here by Serral. Thankfully for Raynor, he actually has Overlord speed, so he's racing these Overlords back home. It looks like it will still get picked off at the same time. Raynor setting everything right through the center of the map.
Yeah, this is that window that we were talking about. Raynor knows that he is up when it comes to roaches and stuff because Serral got these. Because Serral got these mutas, but we'll see how important that is, or how impactful that is, if Serral can get a concave. So far, he's not getting it. Raynor busts on through.
Yeah, he's breaking through. The Ravagers were delayed, by the way. We needed those vials here and now, but it looks like we're barely forcing this back. The Muta's doing a lot of free chip damage here to the main army, and Raynor, he doesn't really feel this attack. He's pulling back, but he's amassing Hydras back at home.
Yeah, that's exactly what he needs right now. I think I appreciate this choice from Serral as well, that he only got these 6 Mutalisks to retake map control.
Yeah, no big.
Would have been cool to see an apocalypse of Mutas, but you know.
I would have
He's
preferred.
being smart about it.
Yeah, just aping it up and making mass Muta would have been great. True.
Look, 6 Mutas, that's not even a problem.
You're not wrong. I mean, they're creating a bit of a problem here. They're getting a couple of extra damage done on the right-hand side, getting a drone here and there, getting a gas geyser at the same time, a roach run by, but ooh, it looks like Serral does run into reinforcements.
Yeah, this delays a lot of the economic damage that Serral wanted to deal. Ravagers are throwing down their biles and not quite landing. A couple of Hydras do get picked off here for Raynor. But it's not the biggest of deals right now.
Yeah, the Mutas, they did take down a gas geyser. They get an Overlord, they go into the main base looking for another gas geyser if possible. And Serral, I believe, is still committed to Roach Ravager. He hasn't taken up into Hydras, which means Raynor has the option to rush into Lunkers.
Ooh, that is an option right now. Especially since he is throwing out that infestation pit. Serral is getting his hive, but we'll see what he actually utilizes it for.
Yeah, interesting.
Again, he doesn't have a Hydra then, so...
Yeah, really interesting that Serral is rushing to the hive as quickly as he is without throwing down the Hydra. Meanwhile, the Roaches, they just keep trading with each other. So far, Serral able to keep up with the army of Raynor. Hydras don't really help too much in Roach v Roach. They're not as ideal as Ravagers. But what's really ideal is those Lurkers, and we should be working towards that eventually. There's that Hydra Den that we were waiting for from Serral.
Yeah, much later. Unfortunately for Serral, but he is going to try to make up for it with Tunneling Claws.
Yeah, okay, so Serral's going to try to harass here with his Roaches, make better use of them. Meanwhile, there's a Lunker Den on the way for Raynor. So Raynor, he's ahead when it comes to Hydra Lurker Viper. Serral is one step behind, but he also throws down his own Lurker Den as well.
Yeah, not too much later than Raynor, surprisingly.
Yeah, exactly. But are we fighting too soon here? Serral does land a couple of these biles, but he's being forced back.
Yeah, a little bit of an inefficient trait here for Serral. That second wave of biles landed, then I would say that it was worth it here, but unfortunately they didn't. Raynor did pull back, and so in the end, it didn't seem very worth it for him.
Yeah, and a good counterattack here from Raynor. Does peel off a couple of Roaches. There is a Spine Crawler in position. At the same time, Raynor pushing right through towards the left-hand side as well, trying to break through the army, but with reinforcements, Serral should barely have enough.
Indeed, he should. With reinforcements of Corrosive Biles, ooh, accidentally biling himself there for a second. Serral should have enough. More reinforcements coming in for Raynor, but so are the reinforcements of Serral. Raynor will be chased back.
Yeah,
but he trades away a lot of these roaches that he wanted to get rid of.
He does trade out some of these Roaches here, but these were rough fights, especially on the right-hand side. He lost his harassing force as well. That Spine Crawler did come in clutch, and now we're getting out of Roaches and into our higher tech. Raynor has got 5 Vipers in production, and all the Lurker upgrades, all the Lurker-related upgrades are on the way for both players.
Indeed, they are, of course, big. Difference right now would be that Raynor has already started refining his army. Serral needs to start shedding some of his supply in order to get there.
Yeah, he's got a couple of Hydra sprinkled in, but no Lurkers yet. We're pushing on through. We do get a kill on some of the site defense. The Spine Crawler does go down. Serral looks like he actually can gain ground here.
Yeah, he sees the opening. He knows that Raynor doesn't quite have his end game army just yet. He doesn't have his lurkers in position. He doesn't have his Vipers or any energy on those Vipers. So while he has the larger army, he's going to make use of it. He has already taken out that hatch to be. He has already killed a lot of the static defense. Is being chased away now, right at the very end. But again, Serral has traded away some of his more inefficient units, and now he is able to start refining his own army.
Yeah, so he's been trading very well here. That was a kill, not a cancel on the hatchery on the right-hand side. As you mentioned, he killed a lot of stack defense as well. Yes, Reynor is getting to Vipers, that's true, but so is Serral. You know, this no longer is a big kind of power spike for Reynor like it should have been. Vipers are moving out, but once again, Serral, he slips in with a couple of roaches.
Yeah, forces everything back. Reynor wanted to push in while he had the advantage, while he had the lurker advantage, but now that advantage is pretty much gone. Serral has still no lurkers of his own just yet.
Not yet, but we have roaches slipping into the main base, we have roaches hitting the third, we have the main army hitting the would-be fifth base as well, and Serral, he's kind of pulling Reynor apart a little bit here, as you mentioned, forcing him to stay at home, and that's so important because Reynor did have the advantage, he did have the better upgrades, he was getting into Vipers a lot faster as well, he's not able to make use of it.
Not at all. His lurkers are hanging about by another base, trying to catch any tunneling clawed roaches. They are not here in position to fight, and as a result, Serral lands a couple of corrosive vials, takes a very efficient trade.
He really does, and now we're getting into Hydra Lurker Viper. Now Serral, he's just getting rid of as many roaches as he can, replacing them with Hydras instead. Does have to be very careful with his army. Again, these spellcasters are very vulnerable, as both armies are soon to clash. Reynor maxing out here, getting into the center of the map, finally picking up some of these mutas. I can't believe some of them are still alive.
Yeah, oh, only one. They're all gone.
They did more than pay for themselves, though, as they do get cleaned up, and we do see Serral just amassing those lurkers, is pushing on the right-hand side. There are only roaches to defend, though, which means Serral, he's breaking through.
Yeah, without much of a fight, he has one lurker of his own, but that is enough when you don't have too many forces to defend and when you don't have detection back at home.
Yeah, exactly. So we see Serral forcing back the army, trading well against the roaches of his opponent. He could even get into the middle line as well. Then we get Lurker does burrow behind that middle line. And you can see on the minimap, the main army pushing right through the middle here for Serral. Again, trying to pull Reynor apart.
Yeah, positioning is absolutely on Serral's side right now. Trying to break through this choke point, but thankfully for Reynor, there are still a couple of reinforcements here. No lurkers yet, but yeah, he does have that concave going his way. 5 Vipers, Light. What do you think of that? Is it a good amount, or is that starting to be excessive?
Now we need more.
Oh.
So, depending on where we get when it comes to lurkers, fun fact, ZVZ is Ling Bane versus Ling Bane, then it's Roach v Roach, then it's Lurker v Lurker, then it's Viper v Viper. Like, at a certain point, once the lurker count gets high enough for both players, it's all about the Vipers. They suddenly become that much more important to actually break these siege lines if we do get into, like, that critical mass of lurker versus lurker.
So far, neither player has really been able to get to their lurkers just yet.
Yeah, there's a handful here and there. We do see a good chunk of them, I believe 6 or 7, with Serral's main army pushing right through the middle, again, looking for a way up some of these ramps. Again, Hecate is very choked up. We do yoink some of the Vipers.
Yeah, huge pickups here for Serral. 5 Vipers, and none of them were really able to get any spells off.
Yeah, other than the abductions, I think Reynor has 1 Viper left. The Vipers of Serral just achieving that much more here, and suddenly he has a little momentum.
Yeah, suddenly he can't take the initiative. This is a very entrenched position here for Reynor, so Serral is going to try to come in with a bit of a flag. He is the first player to siege, burrow. Same concept.
Yeah, same thing. Here we go for the abductions as well. We try to yoink the Vipers, but ooh, it looks like Serral does overextend for a moment. Did bleed out a couple of his own Vipers. They will have to be replaced, and there we go. They are now in production. Likewise, we see Reynor amassing his own Vipers behind this.
Yeah, it will take a while for him to really get that energy up and running. Nice pickups here for Reynor. He is taking out a handful of Hydras at a time, even without Vipers.
Yeah, impressive stuff as he has just gathering up energy. He does take control of the left-hand side. We do see both players with similar economies. Serral is going to be taking an extra base, though, so he'll have a little bit more mining available to him. Ooh, 1 lurker does get picked off, so a good pick off there from Reynor as he does force Serral back.
Yeah, Serral, he had the momentum on his side, but no longer. as Raynor is just looking to render him inert. Once again, Serral is the first player to siege. Lurkers of Raynor are starting to get picked off one after another. There's only one remaining with this army. Serral has been very deliberate and very accurate when it comes to his abducts.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see why Vipers are so crucial in this matchup. Doesn't matter if you have a line of Lurkers because you can pick them off one at a time. And then we go. We have the abductions here. The Vipers on Vipers.
Oh. It's a little too spicy for me. Huge blinding clouds, but of course, Roaches and Hydras, they do not care. They will just walk on through them. Raynor has once again been knocked down to only one Viper remaining. And barely any Lurkers.
Yeah, both players, they abducted each other, but as you said, Serral, he did trade a little bit better there. He had more to support his army, and he's been picking off Lurkers. Oh my god! Catching a lot of Roaches here in the center of the map as well. Good trap set up by Serral.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a Hail Mary there by Raynor, but Serral, he preempted it. He was ready. He was able to pick off another chunk of Raynor's army.
He was. You can see Vipers once again being rebuilt. Serral has been trading more efficiently overall so far, but we'll see if he can keep it up, as this can still swing in favor of Raynor if he does catch an army, if he does manage to catch a couple of these high-tech units.
Yeah, it's a very delicate dance that they're playing right now. Obviously, Raynor needs to split his army because he doesn't really want to take a head-on engagement. He knows he'll be at a bit of a deficit here, but if he splits up his army too much, Serral can just pick off his what's a mini army called? Like, what's one level below an army? These groups, one by one.
Yeah, the force.
You just pick
the
off
group,
these groups. Forces, yeah. Divisions.
There you go. Platoon.
Platoons.
Battalion.
Splatoons. Battle lions.
And here we go. We see Serral amassing his army on the right-hand side. I think he's got like 8 or 9 Vipers with his army, and that's a lot of reductions. His goal is to shut down the Vipers and the Lurkers of his opponent. We'll see if he can pull it off, as we do see Raynor taking the initiative, but he does get yoinked.
Does get yoinked, does get blinding clouded. Vipers are starting to go down, but Serral has much more of them, and he can afford to lose a couple of his Vipers, which Raynor could not, really.
Exactly, as it looked like Serral didn't quite have enough Lurkers in range. They were a little bit too far behind, so he couldn't quite take full advantage of that. Does get forced back. Raynor gaining a bit of ground here. Meanwhile, the mass Lurker army of Serral still just hoping to catch an army in the center of the map. Oh.
That's probably the best course of action for him right now. Nice yoinks on the Overseer.
An Overseer gets 1 Lurker as well. We can see additional Vipers being produced, of course. I'm still waiting for Serral to make his move. Like, that Lurker army has potential not just to take control of that area of the map, of course, but to also push into a mineral line as well. We can see Raynor, he's hunting for it, though.
Yeah, he wants it. He catches wind of them. He wants to catch these Lurkers, but they are a little too fast. Serral looking to burrow somewhere.
There we go. He does take control of the ramp as well, at the same time pushing right through the right-hand side as well with his Vipers.
Yeah, Raynor a little bit too distracted trying to deal with those Lurkers. Huge blinding clouds block the entire army of Raynor. Finally, Raynor will be able to deal with those Lurkers of Serral up that ramp, but he loses a lot. I say he is able to deal with them. No, there are still like 3 Lurkers remaining on that ramp, and there's no answer to the Lurkers of Serral in the main force.
The concave was too good. It was just too good here. Massive spine shot's going to be going up here on the Hydras. Finally, they're going to be cleaned up, but at the cost of a base. Serral, he did take down that 3rd.
Massive choke points. Huge choke points, yeah. Now user players know how it feels.
Exactly, so we're just taking full advantage of that. At the same time, 1 Lurker denying mining here on the right-hand side. Finally, the last Lurker does get taken out in the main base as well, but Raynor, he's bleeding out quite a lot here. He still has a bank to work with, but nowhere near as large as Serral's.
Yeah, he's been taking a lot of hits throughout this game. Serral has been trading a lot more efficiently, but now it really does feel like there's going to be some sustained damage here for Raynor, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Like, Raynor, he needs something to go his way. He has to catch an army out of position or catch a base exposed. He needs some kind of pickoff here.
Oh, Lord.
Just because Serral's just been trading so well.
That's a solid 5,000 more minerals that Raynor has lost.
Yeah.
To the attacks of Serral.
It's been a little bit brutal here. I mean, Raynor, he is maxed out. Like, he can still make something happen with this army. It has amassed his Vipers. I believe he has, I want to say 9 Vipers here. Sorry, 8 Vipers with his army.
Yeah. but he's going up against the 9 Vipers of Zero, so...
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's all about who pulls the trigger first, who yoink first, who does yoink first when it comes to their opposing Vipers. At the same time, Zero going for a run by, does get a couple of workers, does deny some mining time.
Yeah, and I just noticed this. Rainer's Lurker Den got sniped earlier on.
That was a big pickup, actually. So suddenly, Rainer can't reproduce his Lurkers for a little bit here. It is being replaced. At the same time, Cyril pushing on the right-hand side, takes down the Gas Geyser, is forcing a reaction out of Cyril, while both main armies skirmish in the center of the map.
Yeah, it's a very delicate back and forth that we've got right now.
Cyril, he's edging ever closer. At the same time, Rainer, he's trying to catch Cyril, not paying attention to the army, trying to catch him, lacking a little bit there in the center of the map, but doesn't quite get him.
Not yet, anyways. As Rainer just continuing to lose more and more drones. He's being forced to pull his army back to deal with this, and this is exactly what Cyril wants.
Yeah, and even though these Lurkers are going to be going down, if he killed 14 workers, we traded so well here, and now Cyril, he wants to try to engage with that main army. Can he do so? Another base is going to be denied. Good pick off there by Rainer.
Yeah, not too bad. I mean, he is hurting when it comes to the worker count, but Cyril's bases are starting to get mined out as well.
He does need that base up and running. Meanwhile, that Lurker's still alive, by the way. 18 drones go down, but here we go. The main army's going to be clashing.
And this looks like it could be the last hurrah here for Rainer. He needs to do some damage right now, otherwise he's not really going to be able to sustain his army as this game continues.
A couple of nice yoinks go off. We do see Cyril going for the Overseers, not the Vipers. Interesting choice, does pick most of them off. Rainer actually is lacking a lot of Lurkers with his army. He just made 2 of them to kind of maraud around, but he's mainly relying on Hydra Viper.
Yeah, I mean, that really shows how impactful having a key tech building sniped, even if you remake it immediately, can really be.
Yeah,
you're just that far. Yeah, you just have that many extra minutes where you aren't able to produce the units that you need.
Exactly. We're trying to get into that eventually here. Once Rainer does lose a couple of units, he can, of course, replenish his army. Meanwhile, the drones, they came back too soon. 7 of them go down. They were stacked up, and yes, Cyril, he's just picking Rainer apart left and right. We have Lurkers harassing both Fringe bases.
Yeah, well, ordinarily, I would say that, you know, Rainer should be trading some of his drones to get a super maxed army. Looking at his bank, now is not the time.
Yeah, and that's a kill on that hatchery as well. We can even catch some of these transferring workers as Cyril is collapsing on these stray units, trying to pick up whatever he can. And Rainer, he's down to 1 mining base. The top left is the last mining base here for Rainer.
Yeah. Now he's starting to lose more of his gas-intensive units. Rainer trying to sneak around, trying to figure out whatever he can get done. Honestly, I still like Rainer's army quite a bit. It's not very refined. He could use a couple more Lurkers with this, but he's got a solid Viper count, and he does have a much higher army supply than Cyril. He just can't find his trench position.
Speaking of massive reductions here on almost every single Viper. Big power bombs here on top of the Vipers of Cyril, but the Hydras are going to be collapsing. Massive blinding clouds from both players are thrown down. Cyril's army is so softened up. His Vipers are softened up. Rainer takes a decent trade there, but again, he can't replace his army. Cyril can.
Yeah, I think this might be the first time Rainer has been able to come up ahead when it comes to the Viper battles, but it's like you said, Cyril can afford these losses. Rainer can afford less than those losses.
Yeah, exactly. As we get the final abductions here, there's 3 Vipers left for Rainer. He does pull back to a handful of his Lurkers. The hatchery goes down, 26 drones as well. Again, this was a good fight for Rainer, if only he wasn't broke, because he has almost 0 gas in the bank.
It's a good fight, but not a fight that'll win in the game.
Yeah, as we come in with reinforcements, we yoink what little is left here when it comes to Lurkers. Cyril cleans up a lot of those Hydras at the same time. Here comes the reinforcements. Rainer, he's pushing on the left-hand side.
Yeah, if you can somehow manage to flank Cyril's army, then maybe I can see something happening if you can get the sandwich, but it's still going to be tough. Cyril is ahead, a solid 40 army supply.
He is. We have detection as well, just in time to deal with these Lurkers. Big spine shots go off on the army of Cyril, though, so a good engagement overall from Rainer, but here come those Vipers, and we're looking for abductions.
All of a sudden, this is getting a lot closer than it should be.
It really is. Like, again, Raynor has been taking some really good fights. Impressive engagements here out of Raynor. He has been able to get damage done, don't get us wrong, but it's still not enough.
Well, yeah, it really isn't. I was going to say, both players spent their banks, but both players spent their gas banks. Cyril still has a huge mineral bank, and I mean, he has +1 melee. He might be able to get something done there.
He might be able to as he's pushing in. Big Mining Clatty on top of the Hydras, and again, we are looking to abduct. Just barely out of range when it comes to detection. Cyril can't actually get on top of those lurkers, and Raynor is pushing in once again. Cyril's actually out of gas mining. 0 gas income for Cyril, by the way. Raynor is mining gas. Oh.
Indeed he is, but he doesn't have any units to make use of them. GG is called, and Cyril will be taking game number 1. The longest game we've had so far this evening, and this is exactly why I think we were all hyped to get into Cyril versus Raynor.
100%. GG, well played. Cyril played a very clinical ZVZ there, just at every turn. When it came to the mid game, once we got into the mid game, like Cyril, it felt like he was in the driver's seat. Towards the end there, Raynor was taking better fights. He was engaging better. He was controlling better than Cyril. This is true. If only he had an economy behind it. If only Cyril wasn't dominating earlier, right, and crippling the economy of Raynor.
Yeah. It's one of those moments where where Raynor was taking good fights too late, whereas Cyril was taking good fights exactly when he needed to take them.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And yeah, with that, Cyril does take game number 1, but it's a best of 3, so we have options. We can, of course, fight back here for Raynor. Can we also race switch? Can we whip out the Protoss? Do we want to whip out the Protoss?
Yeah, I'm not too sure what the rules here are for Masters Coliseum, if they do allow mid-series race switching, but if they do, I wouldn't be too surprised if we see Raynor whip it out, if Raynor says, "This is why I hate ZVZ," and all of a sudden we see PVZ.
Yeah, I mean, ZVZ, it is very positional based. It reminds me a little bit of TVT, like you were alluding to, like sieging units and stuff like that, but like it really is very positional based, but it's a lot faster just because the ground units in general do maneuver a little bit quicker, and you have to be so on point when it comes to your own positioning and your own map control and map awareness. Yeah. It can be really intense, and I mean, Cyril clearly showed us that he is so damn good at it.
Now you feel my pain. TVT every time. Although you don't have an equivalent to Liberator, so.
Yes, thankfully. But yeah, to be fair as well, this is also specifically when it comes to late game ZVZ. It's also possible that on a smaller map like Hardlead, which is a smaller map by the way, does have a shorter rush. This is the shortest rush distance map in the map pool. We could try to end the game a lot earlier.
Yeah. Show me some Lings, Raynor. Show me some Banes. He was... I can't believe I completely forgot about that, but this game did open up with Raynor trying to Bane bust Cyril.
Yeah.
You know, he trying to fake Cyril out into a little bit of a Ling flood with a Bane bust, but obviously it didn't quite work out. Cyril was quick to scout and react to that, so maybe game number 2, if I already forgot about that. Maybe Cyril has as well.
I'd like to think his memory is a little bit better than ours, but it's possible. It's possible. Yeah, you're not wrong, right? Raynor, he was trying to be aggressive. He was trying to catch Cyril out in the beginning, in the early game of game number 1, but Cyril was so good at scouting. I don't know if you caught wind of it, but we kept checking. The observer kept noticing that Cyril would constantly send Link scouts. Constant Link scouts at the third base and the natural as well. In the main base, he was just always on top of whether or not Raynor was droning or not. And recognizing, you know, that he had to cancel the spine crawl, he didn't need it. Recognizing that, of course, his opponent would be macroing and he'd be able to keep up at every turn.
Yeah. Very diligent scouting coming out here from Cyril. Having a little bit of an extended, well, I say break, but both of our players are clearly still here. So
we have the
yeah,
we can see
things
them.
Out.
We can see them. We do know that they have not stepped out,
unless they hacked the feed.
Oh,
it was actually a pre-recorded thingy. But nothing to worry about. Here we are now on Hard Lab. In the top left, we have a Blue Star player representing Basilisk. We have Cyril from Finland.
And in the bottom right-hand corner, we have the Italian Zurich player, also representing Basilisk. It is Raynor.
Now blonde.
A white. It's like fully bleached out. It's crazy.
It is, yeah. He is taking after Asher's footsteps. When Asher was his age, you know.
True. Fun fact: on EU, Raynor did change his ID, his in-game name, to Jack Frost.
There we go. I was thinking Vanilla Ice, but I guess that's a generational difference.
That is, yeah. Don't try to pretend like you're part of my generation. what are you trying to pull, Yaku? What are you saying? You're like, oh, these kids, they don't know Vanilla Ice like I do. what are you talking about, Yaku?
Look, he looks a bit like Vanilla.
Shaking my head. But here we go. We're getting into our openers, and Raynor this time is not going for a 15-15. This time it is a standard hatch gas pool.
Yeah, not trying to do any fake outs this time like he was in game number 1. Feeling a little bit more confident in more of a standard game. I say standard, but of course, we're on Heartled. It's a very short rush to this map, and there is still potential for Raynor to whip out, say, a Baneling Nest or an early Roach Warren.
Oh yeah. There is always potential for aggression, even when we're taking our third bases. We can always cut workers and just go pure Ling Bane and catch your opponent off guard. This map does lend to it, as you mentioned. But it's difficult, right? Because again, Raynor is down in this series, and I'm sure Cyril is going to be that much more adept at scouting. I'm sure he's fully aware of the aggressive potential of Raynor, and as we saw in the previous game, it's on Cyril to scout and make sure that everything is on the up and up.
Yeah. Which, if game number 1 is an indication, you shouldn't have to worry too much for Cyril in that regard here. In game number 2, he is a player who takes that old saying, knowing is half the battle, really to heart, I think.
And knowledge is key. Like, it's a big part of StarCraft, being aware of what your opponent's up to, especially in mirror matchups. Not just ZVZ, but TVT and PvP is just a major part of it, just because you have very similar or the same tools to work with. So, we'll see how this does unfold as both players take their third bases on time, and this time, no one skips their Baneling Nest.
Yeah. We're safe, we are secure. Well, for now. We'll see who decides to initiate first, as both players do scout that their opponents are doing standard things, taking this seriously, not trying to do any trick outs.
Yeah, exactly. So everything is standard for the time being. We'll see if either one of these players does produce a wave of Lings. We can see 10 Lings in production here for Raynor, so he does invest a little bit more here. We'll see if he doubles down and makes additionals. Meanwhile, Cyril should be making safety Banelings as soon as the Baneling Nest is done, as we are making more Lings.
That's a lot of Lings. And not too many drones behind all of this. Raynor has stopped. Link speed has finished up. He is pooling his links together, and now he's pulling the trigger.
There we go. He is going to be sending it across the map. Now, Cyril has scouted this. He is aware. He's getting ready back at home. We have one Baneling to defend, and once again, Cyril, he slips one Ling in just to make sure that nothing crazy is going on behind this, because Raynor is droning up.
Yeah, on top of this, he also pulls back a couple of Raynor's own Lings. So Raynor makes it to the other side, but isn't here with his full force just yet. Really good snipe here from Raynor.
Yeah.
And with that, he does have quite a lot of control.
Yeah, he does trade better than his opponent. He has one Baneling left over. A good snipe from Cyril. They're focusing down at that Baneling with the Queen, and he will force Raynor back. As the dust does settle, both players are going to be joining from here, and we do see Cyril did throw down a very early Roach Warren.
Indeed he did. The window is open. He can go for the counterattack if need be. Things were looking so dicey for a moment after Cyril lost his one Baneling, but yeah, once again, Cyril, with just the accuracy, with the positioning of the Queens, is able to deflect that.
He's going all in. Cyril, he's cutting workers.
Yep.
This is something that Cyril has been doing ever since his run-in with Solar, by the way. He has been more aggressive. Like, Solar changed him to the core. And Cyril, he is willing to just be the aggressor instead. And here we go. We have 20 more Lings on the way. 4 Banelings as well. Cyril, he's going for a big timing with his Roaches. Raynor, he realized what's going on. 3 Spine Crawlers are on the way in the natural, but will they finish in time?
We shall see. Either way, that third base is forfeit.
Third base will be forfeit, but Cyril, he wants to go for the kill instead. Banelings will be waddling on in. Decent connections on the Banelings of Cyril, but here we go. The Lings are rushing on forward, and we have run out of Banelings for Raynor.
Indeed, we have Lynx trying to slip on in. Good body blocking here with the Queen. Cyril decides not to try to break through, and instead will be going for the third base.
Yeah, he's going for the third base instead. A good zoning here from Cyril's bailing. At the same time, he's still producing army. He catches the Queens. He lured them out off of creep, and he will shut down every single one of them.
He will shut them all down. The spine crawlers are a little bit vulnerable now, but they have managed to root themselves. Cyril, once again, is going to have to fight in this third base location rather than going straight for the throat.
Yeah, once again, he catches another surround on some of these roaches. Again, he's just trying to lure Rainer out. He's trying to force him to expose himself. Third base does fall. As you mentioned, these spine crawlers are a little bit more exposed than they otherwise were, so we can collapse on this.
Just like so. Corrosive Bile on top of the Morphing Baneling as well. We have 40 army supply for Cyril versus a 22 of Rainer. Rainer has the upgrade advantage, but he does not have the quantity on his side.
Yeah, exactly. And Cyril is pushing on through. The boys are being pulled. Drones are going to be going down. Even if Cyril is cleaned up here, and now he's doing so much economic damage.
Yeah, without a doubt. He's still not droning, by the way. Despite getting a lair, he is just making roaches. He is just making lings. And he is sending it, Papi.
He is. He's pulling back for now just to regroup, just to consolidate his army. He's up in economy. He's got 49 drones to the 34 of his opponent. We have a third base, and now here we go. Cyril is droning. He's working on his lair, roach speed, +1 range. Cyril is just getting further and further ahead.
Yeah, you could see Rainer even shake his head a little bit there once he did take stock of what happened, once he realizes how far behind he is when it comes to the economy. He is throwing down a Spire, which I do think is a really good lifeline for him, especially if he can catch Cyril off guard, but it's a very narrow window of opportunity between him seeking out those mutas, getting economic damage, and Cyril realizing, I am up 50 army supply. I'm just gonna walk my roaches into your base.
Yeah, and this is why, like, modern day Cyril is so scary. You know, a year ago, like, Cyril, he was known for just being just a macro god, right? Just like always scouting, always responding, always reacting, you know, just that's how he would play things out. But over the past year of play, he has been spicing it up. He has been willing to be the aggressor. Once he sees an opportunity, he will go for the kill, as we just saw. And sure, he may not have killed Rainer, but I mean, Rainer, he's not really living right now. Cyril, he's up double army supply.
Yeah, Cyril, you know, he used to be a Zerg player, Zerg. Or like the perfect Zerg in a way, where he is just reacting to everything his opponents do. Nowadays, not so much. He's an evolved Zerg, and man, we didn't even get to see the end of that. GG is called. Cyril is the first player to leave, by the way. Disconnect, by the way. An abrupt ending to an extremely solid game number 2. Game number 1 was incredibly close. It could have really gone either player's way, but game number 2 was 100% in Cyril's hands the entire time.
Very decisive play there out of Cyril. He deflected the Lingbane aggression. He threw down a very early Roach Warren, and he went for his own all-in. And we were praising Cyril for his scouting. That is true. Even in game number 2, he was scouting very frequently. Rainer wasn't. Rainer, he was more concerned with what he was doing. He wasn't really anticipating his opponent to be the aggressor instead. And again, that's something that you have to bear in mind when dealing with Cyril nowadays, is that he will be aggressive if he sees an opportunity to do so. He's not that kind of just purely macro player that he once was in years past. Nowadays, he can go back and forth.
Yeah, he's evolved in a sense, you know. He used to be the archetypal Zerg player who would just react to anything his opponents do, would just have a very solid macro base, but now he can still do that. But he also has a couple of extra tricks up his sleeve.
Yeah, and this was a solid series to showcase that, right? Because what we were talking about was game 1, right? Cyril, he was just scouting and reacting just constantly in game number 1. And here in game 2, he just saw an opening. He went for the all-in. He was able to break Rainer before he could really muster up his defenses. And again, as you mentioned, you know, did peter out towards the end of that game. There was no final fight, unfortunately. But Rainer, he just knew
Not even a single muta.
Yeah, he knew how far
was
behind
morphed.
he was.
He had the Spire, but not a single muta was made. Yeah, I don't blame Rainer for tapping out at that position at that point. But again, very well played Cyril here.
Very well played. With that, we're going to be going on a short break. We have one series left. After the break, we'll have a TVP.
Oh, we started with a ZVT. We're ending with a different matchup.
See you guys soon.
See you then. And we are back here with our final match of the evening. It is a very snowy, cold morning from what I can see over in Canada over there. And a very bright and probably cold as well evening in Korea. We wouldn't know though. There's no windows in Cure's room. We have a TVP on our hands. It is Cure versus Trigger.
Here we go. We're having the Zerg players take a break here. We've had a Zerg in every matchup so far, but now we're diving into this TVP, and here we go. Spawning in the top right-hand corner of Hecate, we have Cure for Team Liquid.
And we're here in the bottom left-hand corner of Hecate. We have Red Zerg player from Canada representing Basilisk. It's Trigger.
Beautiful. And if
now
you
we
are
have a real matchup on our hands.
And if you're in the chats, place your bets because predictions are open. Place your bets for the next couple of minutes. You can, of course, get your gamba on for who you think will take this series. As a reminder, it is a best of 3, not a best of 5. So a bit of a shorter series here and quite a series we have before us.
Indeed, we do. We have up ahead of us, of course, Cure, the other ace of Team Liquid. Mm-hmm. Definitely outshadowed quite a bit here in this current season of WTL by Clem, and obviously well-deserved by Clem as well, but still a very scary Terran player in his own right. And meanwhile, we have Trigger, who is somebody who I think we can really kind of track the progress of ever since he joined Basilisk Gaming. You can see with every season of WTL, with every season of ESL Masters, he is getting better and better.
Yeah, Trigger, he has been improving so much over the past couple of years of play, and I mean, we've even seen him pop off in PvT. I'm of the opinion that Trigger's best matchup is PvT as well. He has some of the best out there. But in saying so...
I think you're onto something, yeah.
In saying so, though, Cure also has amazing PvT in his own right, or TVP in his own right. And up until recently, there was a big argument to be made that Cure had the best Terran versus Protoss in the world.
Yeah. And Clem came in.
Yeah, it's true. I do think that Clem did strip it away from him just because of the sheer amount of practice that Clem had against Max Packs in the ESL Open Cups. But regardless, like Clem and Cure, like they're both terrifying against Protoss.
They absolutely are. So this is absolutely going to be a treat for us. One of the best PvT players in the world versus one of the best TVP players in the world.
Here we go, as we have our opener of choice. Now, this is very stylistic from Trigger. It's something that we have noticed as we've been casting a lot of Trigger's PvTs recently. That is that he's not quite fond of Stargate openers. It's not really his jam. He whips it out every now and then, but if he can get away with it, he's much more comfortable with something like a Twilight Council instead.
Yeah. Which we always appreciate, or at least I do.
You're like, oh, it's not Phoenix Colossus? Oh, let's go.
Oh. He's actually microing his units? Oh! Or rather, he's actually making units you need to micro?
Oh my god.
Dude.
You're an animal, Poppy. You're an animal. Asher, is that you? Am I suddenly casting with Asher now? Oh my god, the bias. But yeah, I mean, as you're saying, you know, Blink Stalkers are a lot more dynamic, and there's a lot more you can do with them as well, depending on how many gateways you commit to as well.
Yeah, absolutely. They are a lot more dynamic, and yeah, I mean, we've always said that Blink is probably the most versatile opening you can get in a PvT. It's very useful for defense, and you know, if you do get a robo facility like Trigger is doing right now, you can sneak out a Warp Prism, you can sneak out an Observer, and you know, try your luck being a little bit aggressive as well. Gateway Protoss, or Swamp Toss, rather, is a style that is tricky to pull off, but if you are able to master it, then it does shut down a lot of styles of Terran.
Oh yeah. Recently, Australia's actually been really fond of Swarm Toss, and I think Classic as well. We have seen quite a bit of this PvT, so we'll see if Trigger does embrace that. For now, it's going to be an economic opener. It's only 2 gateways. It's going to be a 2-gate Blink into a 3rd Nexus, but the 3rd base is going to be delayed here by these Hellions. At the same time, Trigger does have the wherewithal to actually rotate over with his Stalkers. There's a Mine Drop making its way into the main base. We'll see if Trigger can respond in time, because that's a lot of mines.
This is a committed drop coming out from Cure. Doesn't quite have the armory for that, what's it called? Hiddenness? But that's still a lot of mines that he's sending out.
There we go, and 2 of them are going to be shot down. At the same time, Hellions did get 2 workers on the right-hand side, so 4 in total. Widow Mine's coming back in towards the natural, though.
And Trigger does catch wind of this, thankfully. Not too late. Oh, he does even have detection here with the Observer.
Yeah, he has detection, and he shuts down the medevac. That was a nice pickoff. Bearing in mind, as you mentioned, this was committed to throw down and to whip out 4 Widow Mines. You ideally wanted a little bit more damage. 5 probes is okay, but again, I don't think that was quite worth losing the medevac itself.
Yeah, it absolutely is not, just from a math perspective. Which is why we see Cure being a bit more aggressive with his Raven. The wall is not a wall, and these 2 Ravens do dip in. 2 Hellions is enough to start 2-shotting these workers, and they're lining up!
Oh, they're lining up, and so much damage is being done. The Stalkers racing back home here, but by the time they do get here, 8 probes have already gone down. These Hellions have more than made up for that mine drop.
Without a doubt, that was Cure making millions out of lemons. He's not even making lemonade. He is just making bank. That was part of me almost wants to say that might have been intentional, or at the very least Cure was intentionally keeping those 2 Hellions alive because of that mine drop being shut down. Usually when a mine drop gets shut down, that emboldens a Protoss player to try to go for a counterattack like we saw from Trigger, and once that happened, Cure just completely cleaned house with 2 Hellions and a Raven.
Yeah, Trigger's overconfidence was taken advantage of, and just a really nice move out of Cure, just being aware that the natural base would be exposed in such a manner, and now suddenly Cure, he has an economic lead. He's pushing out with his bio army. Stim is going to finish up in a couple of seconds. Once it does, we can actually fight and go toe-to-toe with the Stalkers. We have a single Colossus in production. It should finish in time for the push, but we'll see if Cure can get within range of the Nexus, because again, there's 2 tanks with his army. That's a lot of firepower. That's a lot of DPS available here for the Terran.
Without a doubt. Sim is about to finish up in just 1 second. It has finished up. No medevacs to really sustain this army just yet, but here we go. They're picking up reinforcements. They are about to go across the map. There's a decent number of Marauders with this army of Cure as well. So despite the fact that Trigger has a Colossus and should have 2 Colossus by the time this hits, I do think that with careful enough tank positioning, Cure has the tools that he needs to really shut this down.
Trigger's out of position. He has a Stalk army on the left-hand side. This tank is so exposed that we are pushing on forward. And the tanks are looking to get within range of the Nexus as well.
That's every Terran player's dream, is to just see 1 exposed Colossus like that. Trigger is now starting to send a couple of units forward. Charge did finish up, but he's coming at this from a very wonky angle.
Yeah.
His Zealots are dying before they can make contact.
Exactly. Just a beautiful trade here for Cure. He is being cleaned up eventually, but these are expensive losses. Another Stalker is going to be going down. The Immortals themselves so exposed. He's going for the dive. Up.
There's no energy on these shield batteries. One Marauder is remaining, but here come the reinforcements. These Colossus are not long for this world.
They are not. The second Colossus goes down with that. That's the entire army gone, and Trigger has nothing left to defend. This third base so exposed. A couple of Zelts are trickling on in, but GG gets called, and Cure will take game number 1.
You can see the slightest smile on his face. Like, the slightest smile just crack up on his face when he realized that his Hellions cleaned house, and he was able to just walk his way into a pretty... was able to walk his way into a victory pretty much unchallenged from that point on.
Yeah, losing that many workers that early on is pretty devastating, and it's pretty, I don't want to say game-ending, but it's just a big blow to the economy of Protoss.
I go that far.
Arguably game-ending damage.
I go that far as somebody who has taken out 18 probes before the push has happened.
It was brutal. It was brutal, and again, like, Trigger initially had a really good defense. Like, he did well against the mine drop. Don't get us wrong. It was just the follow-up where he was lacking a little bit there, and Cure got a lot of momentum. His push, likewise, it wasn't just that he set himself up so well for the push, but also the push happened to be also coming in as Trigger was out of position. Remember, he only had that one Colossus at the third. He had everything else elsewhere.
Yeah, it's definitely got to be a little bit of a painful moment there for Trigger, because in a way, he kind of did everything right in the early game. You know, obviously, he didn't quite keep his eyes on those Hellions, and which you could argue that he should have. He should have, you know, maybe kept a couple of Stalkers back home to deal with them, but it's something that doesn't happen too often in TVP, so I do not fault Trigger 1 second for, you know, forgetting about those Hellions after he deflected the mine drop.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's those little mistakes that you can't make against a player like Cure, you know? Like, you cannot make those slip-ups here against a caliber of player, whether it's Cure, Clem, you know, these big Terran names. Like, yeah, you have to play almost perfectly against them. And here we go. We're getting into game number 2.
Over here on Golden Aura, in the top left, we have the blue Terran player representing Team Liquid from Korea. We have the mayor of 688 Cure.
And in the right hand corner, we have the Canadian Protoss player for Team Basilisk. It is Trigger.
With a cheeky little SCV coming his way.
Yeah, here we go. The SCV poised to throw down potentially a proxy Rax. Yep, there we go. He's going to be hiding here on the right-hand side, and the Rax is on the way.
Just like so. What are you calling here, Light? 1 Rax, 2 Rax?
I think it's only going to be 1 Rax. Like, there's potential for Proxy Marauder, but it's pretty far away from Proxy Marauder here. Gases are being taken. We'll see. We'll see what Kira has in store for us.
Yeah, as Trigger is taking this pretty seriously. He is checking just outside of his main base and at that third base location, but that's not where the proxy's at, Trigger.
It is not. I mean, he checks the standard proxy location, but Cure, there's a reason why he threw it back a little bit further, and we can see that it goes by unscouted. Rax will finish, and from here, Reaper production has begun. So it's not the most committed of proxies, but with this SCV should be coming in, and ideally, Cure throws out a bunker behind the mineral line, so that we can get this proxy Reaper to get even more damage done.
Yeah, that's how you really squeeze out the most value out of a proxy Reaper like this. Cure building his factory back at home, and this is the big tip-off here for Trigger.
Yeah, exactly. Now he's aware that there is a proxy. There it is. There's that bunker on the way. This is a boulder bunker. It is not behind the mineral line. It's actually next to the pylon. So the goal here is to get on top of the pylon so that the shield battery will be depowered, so we can get even more damage done and even more sustained.
Yeah, can be absolutely very impactful. That shield battery, I believe, is in range of the bunker as well. Stalker in production, but it's not out just yet, so Cure going to be able to pick off a handful of probes uncontested.
Yeah, he gets a handful of workers. Bunker does finish. He can dive on in, both with the Reaper as well as the SCV. The SCV does take a couple of hits, but again, we are just focusing down at that, I believe, shield battery as best we can. Yeah, shield battery already out of shields.
Yeah, I like this from Cure. Didn't waste any time chipping away at the Stalker whatsoever. He is just going to maximize his potential here. That's a little bit of crowd control with the KD8 charge as well, but a little bit too cocky. Has now lost his SCV.
Yeah, SV did go down, but he does get a kill on the shield battery. And again, zero mining here on the low ground just because of the bunker. It should be salvaged as it has caught fire. Shield battery is cancelled though. Upon realizing the bunker should be going down, Trigger should hold.
Just like so, but even still, that was a pretty hefty loss this early on. 2 probes is negligible, but 2 probes and a shield battery will eat into your income quite a bit.
It will, and we have Kira going to be reinforcing with a couple of Cyclones. We have the first Cyclone, second Cyclone is on the way behind this, CC on the high ground as well. We're taking a lot of damage here, good target firing out of Trigger, but the Cyclone barely does survive.
Just barely. He's not really going to be able to utilize that going forward, as more Cyclones are on the way.
Not just Cyclones, a medevac as well. So Curie is going for a Cyclone drop, I imagine towards the main base. Fun fact, Cyclones, they can just do so much damage to probes to the mineral line, so ideally want to try to get in there. We'll see what kind of angle Curie goes for. Regardless, aggression is upon him. I'm sure he wants to top up that Cyclone first. Again, it's on 2 HP, so it's going to take a little bit, but once it's topped up, we can move out.
Slowly but surely. Well, not that slowly anymore.
Yeah.
Especially with medevac boosts coming down.
There we go. We are boosting across the map. The weakened Cyclone was left at home. We just waited for another Cyclone to be produced, and we are making our way towards the main base. Trigger, it's going to be on him to be in position to minimize his losses.
And unfortunately, this is a massive main base on Golden Aura. Trigger, he's anticipating a more frontal assault, so he doesn't quite have eyes on these Cyclones. Stalkers are not in position to deal with them.
Not quite in position. We do lose 2 probes in a couple of seconds, so already a good pick off there by Cure. Does have to respect the Stalkers. He cannot fight that head on, but was able to get quite a bit of damage done, and he's got a second force threading the natural.
Yeah, multi-prong coming down right now for Cure. One Stalker should already be dealt with, like so, and he is pulling the main focus of Trigger away from that main base once again. Cure coming in for a second assault, and more probes are starting to go down. Has to be a little bit careful. This is a decent number of Stalkers, and just like that, the medevac almost goes down.
And so far, very efficient trades here out of Cure. He kills 3 probes. I think that's 5 probes in total, and a Stalker as well. But he will finally lose one of his Cyclones. Behind this, we're out of Cyclone production. We're getting into Bio-Tank, Marauder production, Stim, Combat Shields. But the aggression, the harassment from Cure still is not ending as he's moving out, queued up for some Ravens.
It's always funny to see the auto turrets queued up this early on. But yeah, might as well. Cure knows that the name of the game right now is to just harass Trigger's economy, make sure he doesn't get comfortable, make sure he can't get into that robo facility, or I guess in this case, mass gateway production.
Exactly, there we go. 6 gates on the way, so he's going for that Swarm Toss style that you were alluding to earlier in Game 1, and this all gets scouted. Massive scout here from Curie. He sees all the gateways on the way. He's fully aware that there aren't going to be any Colossi or Disruptors, or even Storm. He's aware of the Swarm Toss.
Yeah, now he has a bit of an opportunity on his hands. He knows that if he gets caught in the middle of the map, then he shouldn't win the fight. Says that was actually a kill and not a cancel on the cannon, I'm assuming. That's what it was. But Cure also knows that if he is able to entrench himself, set up a siege line outside of a base, there's not that much Trigger can realistically do at this point. He just doesn't have a high enough quantity or a high enough production to really flank a sieged up Terran army.
Yeah, we can see that Trigger, he is taking up even further. He's not staying with mass gateway units. We have a bay on the way that should be for eventually Colossus production, but again, it has been delayed in favor of +1 and in favor of Charge. So there's going to be a window where he won't have that available. We'll see if Cure can take advantage of that as he kills another 2 workers in the main base, and he's moving out with his Marauders.
Yes, Stim has finished up a little bit earlier on, but yeah, Cure doesn't want to commit just yet, not without +1 at least.
Yeah, as we do manage to pick up a couple of units, we can see Cure, he's just staying back at home for the time being. Mine drop on the way towards the 3rd base, let's go. Colossus production has commenced. There was always the option to maybe go into Disruptor first, but I appreciate that Trigger is calming things down and going for the Colossi first instead, just a more secure way to settle himself in.
Yeah, definitely a lot more reliable compared to Disruptors. Sure, they might not do much against the Marauders or the tanks, but it's damage you can count on compared to Disruptors, which can get huge damage, but can also just whiff and do nothing.
Exactly, as a Mind Jump going to be coming in. Doesn't actually get too much damage done, good reaction at a trigger, but we can see that we have given the opportunity for Cure to push right through the center here, right under the nose of Trigger. He is out of position, he's dealing with the mines. Meanwhile, here comes the main army in between the bases.
The Colossus is exposed again!
No!
Why does this keep happening? The Colossus goes down far too far away from shield battery range. Couple of Stalkers now coming in for a bit of a concave. Stimmed Marauders are putting in a lot of damage. Good target firing from Trigger, taking out those medevacs. Cure will have to go back home, but that was an expensive loss.
Yeah, I mean, Trigger will lose his entire army. Bear that in mind. So it wasn't for nothing, but as you mentioned, losing the Colossus was brutal. We do have to get back into that. Again, ideally, we want to hit critical mass of 3 Colossi, but with that much more delayed here for Trigger.
Much more delayed, and we can see Cure already setting up for round 2, setting up another mine drop, just consolidating some of his forces. He has stopped tank production, which I think is ideal for the gateway style that Trigger's thrown his way. Does mean that he'll have a little bit more difficulty zoning away and chipping away at the Colossus, though.
Exactly. As you mentioned, you know, tanks are just not ideal against mass charge lots. Meanwhile, we have a Widow Mind Jump coming in. We do have cannons in position, though. We do pull away in time. Good reaction so far out of Trigger as he does minimize his losses and does deal with those mines.
Like so. Human probes do go down. Both players are pretty even economically. When it comes to the worker count, they are about the same, but of course, Trigger is setting up his 4th base quite a bit quicker.
Yeah, and Trigger, he needs that 4th to get up and running. He's getting into 2nd Robo to get into double Colossus and eventually double Disruptor production. I say that recently Trigger has been very fond of not going double Disruptor but going double Immortal instead, just as an alternate way to support the army. So we'll see if he goes for that here against Cure, as Cure is getting his own 4th on location. A little bit greedy, but he does have map control.
Yeah, he can afford to be greedy for now. We'll see if the turn's tabled.
We shall see. Ghost production well underway for Cure as well. He's going to have a lot of EMPs. As we mentioned, there it is, double Immortal production. So this is something that Trigger and Max Packs have been sprinkling in every now and then. Again, instead of relying on Disruptors, especially because of the new change, because Disruptors, they do cost more supply than before. They've been experimenting and they've been just mixing in Massive Immortal instead.
Yeah, which obviously is a very beefy unit. It can be key to taking out some of these beefier turn units like Marauders. If there were still tanks, it would be the key to taking out the tanks as well. They're definitely a lot more reliable than Disruptors, but at the same time, their potential for, you know, swinging things in the Protoss player's favor is also much lesser.
100%. That's the trade-off, right? Like, as you mentioned, there's so much potential with big Purification Nova Shots, but the Nova Shots aren't going to be available here for Trigger, as we do have a massive Auto-Turret harass in the main base, taking down the cannon, and getting into the middle line. 5-6 probes go down. Pretty good amount of damage.
Really good amount of damage here. Trigger has never really been able to get up into 70 workers, let alone the 90 probes that you really want in the endgame Protoss army.
Yeah, exactly, and because of that Cure, he's able to max out first. He is reaching that 200 supply mark. He's got plenty of Vikings on the way, +1 air attack as well, +1 ship weapons, and behind this, Cure should eventually be working towards a Fusion Core and Liberator production.
Yeah. All builds lead to libs.
It's all
one way or another.
It's all about that freedom in TvP, and we'll get there eventually. Again, Cure just marauding around. Trigger has established his 4th base, you know, thankfully, and Trigger, he is now maxing out himself, but there's that Fusion Core that we were talking about, and Trigger does not have the best army to deal with a lib transition, which is on the horizon, not quite here yet.
Yeah.
Oh.
Not just yet, as Cure scans, takes over the army, and decides he can't quite push up that ramp in particular.
Yeah, Exactly. He's going to have to rotate around, still testing the waters. That's 2 more starports on the way. That's 3 CCs. Oh my. I mean, Trigger, Kira, he knows he's a little bit far ahead here, so he's got 3 CCs in production alongside 3 starport production as well to eventually get into those Liberators. Oh.
Yeah. It's like he has a macro that tells him to spend this money when he, you know, starts banking them. Starts banking it.
There you go. Big EMPs here on the army as well, so a good start here from Cure. Trigger going to try and clean this up. The Mass Immortal has been spotted, and there we go. The first wave of Liberators are on the way, but we're still not quite there yet. Trigger, he can push out. He can try and deny this base.
Try, of course, being the operating word. As that's a lot of Terran. Might not have a lot of anchor units, but it is still terrifying with all of these ghosts, with all of these Marauders as well. Huge EMPs right in the center of the army. Most of the Archons are down. Colossus are starting to fall. And what's left of the Protoss army isn't too beefy. Huge reinforcement of charge slots will be keeping this Terran army at bay. Will be preventing it from really going for a big counterattack, but once again, a much more efficient trade for Cure.
Hey, that was an insane trade for Cure. He got a massive wave of EMPs. The first line of Zealots from Trigger died instantly. Like, it was crazy. As soon as the Zealots went down, we got on top of the Colossus, we got on top of the Immortals as well. A very efficient fight. And now Cure, he's remaxing with Ghost Lib. The army's getting more and more complex. Meanwhile, Trigger is coming in once again.
And he is... okay, he's got decent anti-air. He's remade his Archons. He's got a couple of Stalkers, but how long will they last?
And does focus down both those Liberators. He does get a feedback on the Ghosts as well, doing whatever he can, but here come the reinforcements. The Marauders trading so efficiently against the Immortals and the Stalkers as well. We do barely get a warp in of reinforcements, but this Prism is so low.
It is very, very low. One more target fire from a couple of Ghosts should be enough to take it out. It is still alive for now, and Cure, I think he's realized that damage has been done. He can just start parade pushing all the way across the map.
Mate, that was insane. We saw once again a Cure. He got on top of, I want to say, 6 Immortals, and they melted. The Immortals, they melted against the Mass Marauder. 1 stim was all it took for Cure to just snowball out of control. Liberators are arriving, and Trigger, he is down to sub 100 supply.
It's always unfortunate. He's got 70 workers, which is all right, but 50 army supply at this point. That is game-ending.
Yeah, as we do see Cure just reinforcing across time. He knows he has momentum on his side. A big EMP once again on one of those Immortals. He's going to be pulling back for the time being, but he's looking for that 5th base. He wants to deny the mining here from Trigger.
Yeah, Cure's being very methodical this game, not jumping straight for the throat. He wants to make sure that he always has an opportunity to escape before he does so. Another Colossus gets sniped. Cure getting a little bit flanked, or I should say Trigger trying to go for a bit of a flank, but Cure's just too well set up. He's got his Marauders. His Liberators finally go down, but not before taking out a whole massive chunk of the Protoss army with them.
Yeah, the Immortal count was reset in doing so, and here come the reinforcements. You can see that Cure just has so much momentum on his side. The reinforcements, the rally just does not end. We have 1 Colossus to hold on, 1 Colossus here to try to survive, but there's no shield battery here at this 5th base. There's no overcharge available either.
Yeah, Trigger desperately trying to muster up a defense. He's getting a couple of Archons. He's getting restarted his Immortal production, but I don't think the numbers lie in this case, Light. I don't think the soup is trying to deceive us.
Yeah, the soup does not lie. Not here, as Liberator's going to be sieging up. Zealots, they go for a big dive here. Liberator's going to be going down, but we just don't have the numbers we need from the Protoss.
None at all. If this map were infinite and this Colossus were able to just continually kite back, maybe there's a chance, but that is not the reality that we live in. GG is called. Cure will be taking that series 2-0. Nicely done.
GG, well played. A solid series there out of Cure. Trigger having a really hard time in game 1 after slipping up a little bit in the early game. Here in game 2, likewise, the Proxy Reaper did very well for Cure, followed by the Constant Harass with Auto Taurus, with Mind Drops as well, and yeah, just a solid series there out of Cure. We talk about how he is overshadowed at times by Clem. That is true, but he's still an amazing player in his own right.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a reason why he was probably the most high-profile pickup of Team Liquid in 2023. And in fact, going back further, I'm trying to think if there really was any higher pickup for TL. I think Tejas started. No, Tejas started on Slayers, but he only made a name for himself on TL. So yeah, I'm gonna say definitively, Cure, the most high-profile pickup.
Yeah, it does feel
in
like
Team Liquid history.
A lot of the pickups from Team Liquid before that, like they grew into who they became, right? They weren't already established before they got picked up.
Look at Clem.
Yeah, exactly. Look at Clem growing before our eyes. But GG, well played. Very well played here by all of our winning players here. And if you're a fan of players like Trigger, like Rainer, like Solar, and Oliveira as well, they will be fighting back in a couple of days in the second round. Meanwhile, tomorrow we're going to be back with the second half of round 1. Tomorrow is going to be Beyond versus Shin, Hero versus Bunny, Maxpax versus Firefly, and Clem versus Maru.
Oh, I can't believe my eyes.
All the Fireflies. So, again, if you enjoyed today's broadcast, well, stick around because we're going to be back here every day for the next 2 weeks. It's a very long event, and it's just back-to-back non-stop StarCraft.
Just keep coming and they don't stop coming.
Exactly. So this is merely the beginning of Masters Coliseum, and it will continue for the next 2 weeks until we crown our champion. On site, of course, were the WTL champions, but who's going to be the individual league champions? Serral looking strong already, Dark as well. We still have yet to feature some of the big Terran players. I mean, we saw Cure, but you know, Clem and Maru, they're facing off tomorrow in a TBT.
Oh boy. A little bit of a rematch from WTL, a very recent match from WTL as well, so a lot of potential for it to go the exact same way, but also a lot of potential for Maru to have learned since then.
A lot of potential, and with that, we're going to be wrapping up here tonight. Again, only 4 matches here, and tomorrow will be the other 4, so I hope you all enjoyed yourselves, hope you all had a good time. Yaku, thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you.
And you.
Yaku, what have you been up to? Do you have any New Year's resolutions for 2024?
I had a New Year's resolution. It was to do 100 jumping jacks a day. And then my hip wore out. So now I have to find a new resolution.
Oh no. Not like
my wrist
this.
also wore out, so I'm a little out of commission for anything more intensive.
Look after yourself, Papi. Look after yourself. Yeah, Happy New Year, of course, everyone. And what a way to start the new year with an event like Masters Coliseum. For those that are curious, Masters Coliseum should be wrapping up, like, I think 2 weeks before IEM Katowice. So just one event right into the other. So yeah, there's a lot of StarCraft coming up here, and it's all leading into IEM Katowice.
Indeed. Huge developments have taken place since 2023. Obviously, that year we saw the rise of Clem. He is looking like an absolute monster going through, but there are a lot of huge developments elsewhere as well. Navi is actually actually has a player now.
True.
In StarCraft.
True. Yeah, I think my eyes are definitely on, obviously, Clem to see his form here in the aftermath of Masters Coliseum. Likewise, Serral. Obviously, my eyes are definitely on Serral here because even though he did get knocked out, even though he didn't become our ESL Masters Winter Champion, he's still an amazing player and still a player to keep your eye on as he is going to be a threat for that IEM Katowice trophy, for that crown.
Yeah. I believe the players have been seeded already, have they? I need to double check that.
I know they've been invited. I think they've been confirmed. I don't know if we have groups yet for IEM Katowice.
Oh, okay. So they're probably seeding it right now. I need to take another look at the players who made it through. There we go, Spirit. He is qualified for IEM.
Yeah, he has qualified.
I had to remind myself.
All good. But with that, do you have anything else you want to add here before we head off for the night?
Get some nuts. They're healthy. That's my advice.
Get those nuts, Papi. Get those nuts. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you guys tomorrow for day number 2 of Masters Coliseum 7. Until then, enjoy yourselves. Take care. Drink plenty of water and get those nuts.
Yeah. Put them in your mouth.
See you then.
I'll see ya.